Chapter 833. Even though he had decided to go to a primal chaos city to defend, Dongbu Shuang wasn't in a rush to leave. After all, he had just become an inner hall elder, and he still had many valuable books to study in the 4th level of the Wanxiang Palace. Once he was stationed in a primal chaos city, he might not be back for a long time. Therefore, Dongbu Shuang stayed in the Great Void Heaven Temple for another 20 million years. Apart from reading books in the Myriad Elephant Palace, he spent most of his time cultivating in the Palace of Time. The Palace of Time had lasted for nearly 2 billion years, and he had used up 10,000 merit points equivalent to an Origin World Stone. This caused some of the Inner Hall elders to say, "Elder Dongbu, you've been cultivating for a long time. Why do you keep cultivating in the Temple of Time? Becoming an Inner Hall elder will give you 1 million merit points. This is a one-time reward. If you want more in the future, you'll have to fight for it yourself. Resources are precious, and you can't waste them like this." Dongbu Shuang smiled but did not explain. Time. He had spent as much time as possible in the Temple of Time. Now, both the 13 Armageddon swords and the plate ripple diagram had reached a bottleneck. The reason why he had spent nearly 2 billion years in the Temple of Time was mainly because he had recently obtained the cosmic-level secret art plate ripple diagram. Fortunately, his current realm was quite high, so he could cultivate it to a very high level in such a short time. Whoosh! Dongbu Shuang turned into a stream of light and flew on the floating continent in the center. Soon, he entered an ancient palace that occupied a huge area, the Palace of Chaos. A female void god immediately appeared at the entrance of the Primal Chaos Palace Hall to welcome him. Elder Dongbu, this female void god respectfully greeted. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Void gods who could stay within the Great Void Heaven Temple for long periods, other than the Hall Master and the Inner Hall Elders, were those in charge of miscellaneous matters. After all, it was impossible for the Inner Hall Elders to personally handle these matters, right? The Inner Hall Elders were the upper echelons of the sect and were extremely powerful. They disdained such trifling matters. Usually, those who were in charge of trivial matters were the Outer Hall Elders who were valued by the Hall Masters. They also had another name, Inner Hall Deacons. A deacon was a person who did things. The Inner Palace represented that one could live in the Great Void Heaven Temple. As for the Outer Hall Elders, they could only come if they wanted to challenge the Star Pagoda, cultivate in the Palace of Time, or send some new true god disciples over for official business. Normally, they wouldn't be able to stay there, because there weren't any abodes left for them in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Within the Great Void Heaven Temple, there were only slightly more than 100 void gods in the Inner Hall. I'm heading to Tianshui City. Dongbu Shuang said. Elder Dongbu, please. The female void god led the way in front. Flying along the winding corridor, they soon saw a huge primal chaos maelstrom passage in front of them. This primal chaos maelstrom passage was guarded by a void god and 2 puppets. This is the entrance to the passage that leads to the celestial water city. The female void god said. Dongbu Shuang nodded and flew towards the chaos whirlpool. Hong, the female void god and the other void god by her side looked at Dongbu Shuang with envy as he directly entered. Being Inner Hall Deacons, they were only qualified to head to other primal chaos cities when they had official business. Otherwise, they would have to pay a high toll if they wanted to head there for personal matters. But the identity of an Inner Hall Elder was different, and the privileges he had were much higher than them. Elder Dongbu has not been in the Great Void Heaven Temple for long, yet he has become an Inner Hall Elder. The female void god muttered. How can we compare with him? He has become an Inner Hall Elder at the Origin Birth Realm. That's too formidable. Furthermore, he has Ancestor Devil and Sword Master behind his back. The void god by the side said. He was powerful and had great potential. Furthermore, he had the powerful support of Ancestor Devil and Sword Master. These Inner Hall Deacons could only look up to him. Hong Long Long within the Primal Chaos Whirlpool, Dongbu Shuang was constantly flying. This Primal Chaos Whirlpool passage was slightly similar to a Cosmos passage. The 12 primal chaos cities constructed by the Great Void Heaven Temple are spread across approximately one-third of the entire seven-star oceanic sacred world. The distance between each city is extremely far. Even a primal chaos realm giant would have to spend 100,000 years or so to travel from one primal chaos city to another. Dongbui Shuang sighed. The sacred world was too big. The suppression of the laws was also too strong, making it hard for them to travel. For the sake of increasing their control, the Great Void Heaven Temple did not care about the price to construct 12 fixed primal chaos passages that connected the primal chaos cities and the Great Void Heaven Temple. After flying for the time taken to brew a cup of tea in the primal chaos passage, Dongbui Shuang finally saw the exit of the passage. Hong! Flying out of the primal chaos whirlpool, Dongbui Shuang saw a large group of void gods gathered within the huge palace hall. With a glance, there were more than 1,000 of them, and some of them had exceptionally powerful auras. Greetings, Elder Dongbui. The two leading figures with extraordinary auras immediately bowed. The others behind them also bowed in unison. Is it Elder Chun Wu and Elder Qian Yu? Dongbui Shuang chuckled. Elder Chun Wu was a male wearing a tall crown and loose green robe. Elder Qian Yu was a white-haired old man who was casually dressed. Being an inner hall elder, Dongbui Shuang could obtain a large amount of intelligence through the communication talisman. Naturally, he had obtained intelligence on the Celestial Water City. The Celestial Water City was one of the 12 primal chaos cities. The one with the highest status was the incarnation of Celestial Water Hall Master, who was responsible for guarding the primal chaos city. But given the identity of Celestial Water Hall Master, he would naturally have more important matters to attend to. Hence, his incarnation would usually be in deep sleep. Only during crucial moments would the will of Celestial Water Hall Master descend. Only then would his incarnation wake up. Hence, even though it was said that the incarnation of Celestial Water Hall Master had the highest status on the surface, he rarely appeared. Next was the Society of Elders. The Society of Elders was responsible for handling all sorts of matters within the Celestial Water City. The Society of Elders were all Outer Hall Elders. Those who could become Outer Hall Elders might not be the core elites of the Great Void Heaven Temple, but they had obtained the trust of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Furthermore, they were sufficiently powerful to the outside world. Beneath the Society of Elders was the Deacon Society. They were all Outer Hall deacons. Simply speaking, they were thugs. Many void gods who wanted to hug the thick thigh of the Great Void Heaven Temple were willing to become deacons because deacons had contribution points too. In the future, they would have the chance to browse through precious books and exchange for treasures. However, the merit points given to the deacons were very few. Since the Outer Hall Elders were the ones in charge of everything, the Outer Hall Elders would take the majority of the merit points for every mission, and the deacons would split the remaining merit points. Even so, there were still a large group of Outer Hall deacons. The Celestial Water City had a total of 61 Outer Hall Elders, and 2 of them were at the Unity Realm. There were 59 at the Origin Birth Realm. Most Origin Birth Realm Outer Hall Elders had the combat power of an ordinary Unity Realm expert. Of the 2 Unity Realm Outer Hall Elders, Elder Chun Wu had passed through the 4th level of Star Pagoda and was practically unparalleled amongst Unity Realm experts. After all, those heaven-defying existences at the 5th level of Star Pagoda had reached the threshold of the Primal Chaos Realm, and ordinary people could not meet them. As for Elder Qian Yu, he had passed through the 3rd level of Star Pagoda and was also at the peak of the Unity Realm. He could easily kill a large group of Unity Realm experts. In the Great Void Heaven Temple, Unity Realm Void Gods were usually at the 3rd or 4th level strength. It was too difficult for them to pass through the 5th level, and the moment they did so, they would be able to ascend the heavens with a single step and become an Inner Hall Elder. Elder Dong Bo actually knows our names. It is our honor. The white-haired old man Elder Qian Yu immediately chuckled. Knowing that Elder Dong Bo is stationed in our Celestial Water City, Brother Qian Yu and I are relatively happy and have prepared a banquet. I hope that Elder Dong Bo will give us some face. Elder Chun Wu added. Even though it was Dongbui Shuang who came. It caused the two highest statuses in the Celestial Water City, Elder Chunwu and Elder Qianyu, to have an additional inner hall elder. But the two of them were not angry. Instead, they were happy. Because they were clear that a monster who could pass through the third level of Star Pagoda at the Origin Birth Realm would be able to reach the fifth level easily the moment he reached the Unity Realm. Furthermore, Dongbo Shuang had cultivated for such a short period, and it was likely that he would become a hall master in the future. For such an existence to be willing to guard the Celestial Water City for a period of time, it would be a good opportunity for the two of them to form a relationship with Dongbo Shuang. The level of their combat power was awkward. After all, they had cultivated for trillions of years. Reaching their level, it was hard for them to improve further. They could not even find an opportunity to hug onto a thick thigh. It was highly possible that Dongbo Shuang would become a thick thigh in the future. How could these old fellows who had lived for an unknown period miss out on this opportunity? Alright, then I'll have to trouble Elder Chunwu and Elder Qianyu, Dongbo Shuang said. It was sufficient for him to treat Elder Chunwu and Elder Qianyu politely. Even if he treated them coldly, Elder Chunwu and Elder Qianyu could only endure it. As for the other outer hall elders and deacons, they did not need to care too much. Chapter 834. The Celestial Water City occupied an area of 50 million kilometers. Being one of the 12 primal chaos cities protected by the Great Void Heaven Temple, it was extremely safe. Many cultivators lived within. There were even many cities in the wilderness outside the primal chaos city with many living beings living there. Because being close to the Celestial Water City represented relative safety. The reason why the Celestial Water City was only 50 million kilometers wide was because the primal chaos incarnation could only protect a limited area. Under the law suppression of the sacred world, it was hard for the primal chaos incarnation to save someone from too far away. Dongbo Shui Ying's residence occupied an area of 500 kilometers. It was considered quite extravagant within the Celestial Water City. Time passed. Dongbo Shuang would occasionally walk around the Celestial Water City by himself, visiting some restaurants to eat some unique delicacies while listening to the discussions of the surrounding cultivators. The taste is really not bad. Dongbo Shuang was drinking wine and eating desserts. He was enjoying himself. The Celestial Water City spanning 50 million kilometers seemed very small to powerful cultivators. But in reality, there were still many restaurants that could remain in the Celestial Water City for a long time and that cultivators were willing to come and eat there. All of them were unique. Dongbo Shuang had eaten for 3 months before eating a small portion of the food available in the Celestial Water City. Dang, a sound came from the communication talisman. Dongbo Shuang immediately checked B29 City, west of the city, the Golden Wing Nation King is requesting for help. He is suffering from a large-scale devouring attack by at least 10 ordinary void gods. This was a request for help. Dongbo Shuang immediately stood up. He placed a violet metallic piece on the table before leaving the restaurant. The restaurants in the Celestial Water City were usually willing to collect precious materials. At the very least, it would be deity crystals. If it were deity crystals, the amount would be huge, at least 1 million deity crystals. A little attendant in the restaurant saw the violet metallic piece placed by Dongbo Shuang on the table with a glance. He immediately walked over and received it with joy. Violet Snow Rock? He is indeed a void god. His actions are extraordinary. Dongbo Shuang had once obtained a violet snow rock mineral vein when he killed some void creatures in the 200 over primal chaos lands. Whoosh! Dongbo Shuang disappeared from the Tianshui city and executed the void evasion. Now that he had reached the 28th level of the Walker's hidden secret, his movement speed was much faster. In just a few breaths of time, he arrived at the Tianshui city spatial transfer array. He waited a good while. A team formed by 2 outer hall elders and 30 outer hall deacons appeared here. They were one of the teams that were on duty and had received orders to head to the Golden Wing Nation. Elder Dongbo, the 2 outer hall elders and the 30 outer hall deacons were shocked and hastily bowed respectfully. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head, you are going to the Golden Wing Nation. Replying to Elder Dongbo, we are indeed going to the Golden Wing Nation. One of the green-horned youths said respectfully. I'll go with you guys. Let's go. Dongbo Shuang instructed. Don't worry, this little bit of merit points is nothing to me. A dignified inner hall elder is going on this kind of mission. As long as they don't split the merit points between us, it will be fine. The two outer palace elders and the large group of outer palace deacons thought to themselves. This was a rather ordinary mission, and the reward was only 1 merit point. This 1 merit point was split between the two outer palace elders and the large group of outer palace deacons, who still had to split it further. Don't think that it was a small amount. Over the years, they had been accumulating missions. It wasn't hard for an outer hall elder to gather 10,000 merit points. Hong, Dongbo Shuang and the team entered the teleportation array. Usually, the teleportation array would only be used once a year. Unless someone was willing to pay a huge price to use it alone. However, for Dongbo Shuang and the rest to carry out the mission, they had to use the teleportation array immediately. Furthermore, it was free of charge. Under the suppression of the laws of the sacred world, even if the teleportation array was created by the palace lords and hall masters, it could only teleport a certain distance each time. Elder Dongbo, this is the B26 city. They arrived at a city that was just 50,000 kilometers in size. This city was filled with many arrays that were constantly being activated and enveloped the entire city. It had a grand power, and there were even outer hall elders leading their subordinates to guard the city. And then, Dongbo Shuang nodded. The sacred world was too big. The region that the celestial water city could affect was covered by the teleportation cities. Even though there were a total of 100 cities around the celestial water city, it could only affect a small portion of the region. The regions further away were all barren. Even with the wealth of the Great Void Heaven Temple, they were willing to construct a teleportation city that could only cover a small portion of the region. There were even vaster regions that were occupied by primal chaos giants, ruling over a region. Rushing, this was an extremely difficult matter in the sacred world. Weaker cultivators would choose to rush over to the nearest superpower. B26 city, B27 city, B28 city, they finally arrived at the B29 city. Who? Dongbo Shuang and the group of cultivators flew out of the B29 city. In the distance, it was a vast expanse. Even though there were many people in the sacred world, compared to the vastness of the sacred world, it was still sparsely populated. Most of the living beings would gather under an expert. Everything was for the sake of survival. Elder Dongbo, even though the Golden Wing Nation is within the region controlled by the B29 city and is relatively close, we still have to travel through the void. It will take us about a year or so to reach the Golden Wing Nation. An outer hall elder said, our Deacon Jiu Qi is at the Unity Realm. He is the fastest in the team and will bring us along. Deacon Jiu Qi was originally a mutated beast. Now that he had transformed into a human, he had 9 heads. At this moment, he was respectfully bowing. Dongbo Shuang looked at him before nodding, all right, let's hurry. Reaching the sacred world in a year or so was considered very close. It was difficult to travel through the sacred world. Hong, after Deacon Jiu Qi bowed respectfully, he began controlling the void to envelop everyone present before directly piercing through the void. They continued moving forward in the void. Stop! Dongbo Shuang instructed. Instantly, the team stopped and appeared in the void. The two outer hall elders looked at Dongbo Shuang with doubt. Deacon Jiu Qi was also at a loss. Let me bring all of you along. Dongbo Shuang said. As he spoke, he took the initiative to control the void to bring everyone along. So, while piercing through the void, the two outer hall elders and the group of outer hall deacons were astonished. It was too fast. This inner hall elder might only be at the origin birth realm, but his void evasion speed was over 10 times faster than Deacon Jiu Qi. As expected of an inner hall elder. I thought that since inner hall elders are at the origin birth realm, their void evasion speed would be weak. I didn't expect it to be so terrifying. All of them were speechless. At this moment, Dongbush Shuang was using the communication token to gather information and find the location of the Golden Wing Nation. Even though he had a rough introduction of the 5 sacred worlds, a small nation like the Golden Wing Nation might be destroyed at any time. Hence, it wasn't recorded in the map. Only by using the communication token would he be able to find the location. Furthermore, in the future when the Golden Wing Nation is destroyed, the information obtained through the communication token would be altered. I was still wondering how fast that Deacon's void evasion would be. It seems like he is only at the standard of an ordinary Unity realm. Dongbush Shuang thought. As a Voidwalker, his teleportation speed was already comparable to a Unity realm expert when he reached the 21st level of Walker's hidden secret. Currently, he was at the 28th level. Amongst those at the Unity realm, his void evasion speed was considered to be extremely powerful. However, there was always someone stronger. Dongbush Shuang knew that there were some heaven-defying Unity realm experts like the Inner Hall Elders who were extremely heaven-defying. They could even tear through time and space to travel. Their speed was much faster than his. I reckon that we will reach the Golden Wing Nation in a month. Dongbush Shuang calculated the distance and made his judgment. Golden Wing Nation. This was a nation that occupied an area of 5 million kilometers. The entire nation was a huge city, and the leader of the nation was a Unity realm expert. But given how big the nation was, those void gods could ambush and devour it. They could even work together to resist against him. This gave the Golden Wing Nation king a huge headache. Currently, the entire Golden Wing Nation was in a state of panic. After all, a large number of cultivators would be devoured from time to time. Who would not panic? Within one of the residences in the Golden Wing Nation, a violet-haired black-robed male sat there with a mutated beast lying in his bosom. He indifferently said, "The team from the Celestial Water City will rush over in about a year's time. Continue creating panic and make use of this opportunity to spread our ancient sacred religion. Those who believe in our ancient sacred religion will be protected, and the time limit for preaching will be limited to half a year. Half a year later, all of you will hide and not expose yourselves. Wait until the team from the Celestial Water City leaves before continuing to manage the Golden Wing Nation." The violet-haired black-robed male ordered. Yes. The 3 void gods by the side solemnly acknowledged. Chapter 835. After the 3 subordinates left, there was only the purple-haired black-robed male sitting alone in the courtyard. He was gently caressing the mutated beast's fur in his embrace. This mutated beast was squinting its eyes in comfort. Panic. The more you panic, the better. The purple-haired black-robed male muttered, "Either perish in panic or become a member of the ancient sacred religion. It is your fortune to be qualified to worship the mighty sacred master." He did not place the Golden Wing King in his eyes at all. Currently, the strength they possessed was completely above the Golden Wing King. If they truly wanted to devour the Golden Wing country, there would not be a single living being left in the country. They did not do so to devour. Instead, they did so to allow more cultivators to become members of the ancient sacred religion. Who? On a street with many densely packed mansions, a black figure suddenly appeared in midair and let out ear-piercing laughter. Following which, a terrifying devouring force enveloped the mansions below. The cultivators within the mansions, including the mansions themselves, flew up and headed towards that black figure. No! It's a devil. It's the great devouring devil. A large number of living beings within the 5 mansions that were devoured were panicking. They had been living in fear for the past few days, afraid that those devils would devour them one day. However, they were consoling themselves. The Golden Wing country's cities were a total of 5 million miles. Under the suppression of the sacred world, the great devil could only devour a small region each time. It should not coincidentally devour them. But the nightmare still descended. Ah! No, no! The mournful voice spread out, causing countless residents in the surroundings to be incomparably terrified. Many of them reported to the Golden Wing Nation's royal family, but in a breath's time, the black figure in the sky had already disappeared. After a while, when the two protector elders arrived, they only saw a region where even the bricks had been devoured and the surrounding residents were panicking. Damn it! It escaped too quickly. The two protector elders gritted their teeth in anger. A group of devils were hiding in various locations within the Golden Wing country, launching sneak attacks time after time. Every time they devoured a small region, they would immediately leave. In the entire Golden Wing country, there were cultivators being devoured at all times. The entire country was in a state of panic, but no one dared to escape from the Golden Wing country. Because once they escaped, without the protection of the king, they would die even faster. At this time, a mysterious sect was also preaching. As long as one believed in the ancient saint religion, they would receive their protection. Those devils did not dare to offend the ancient sacred cult. The true god rulers, who were considered to be at the top of the Golden Wing nation, were constantly being preached to. Some stubborn ones were even directly captured and forced to worship the ancient saint religion. If there were truly those who were captured and failed to convert, the only outcome for them would be death. Inside each cage, every single cage had a cultivator locked within, with the weakest being a true god ruler. There were even 2 void gods locked within. Hum hum. The surface of the cage emanated black light. Countless mysterious runes flowed on the cage, and formless sound waves continuously tunneled into the minds of the imprisoned cultivators. Ah ah ah. The imprisoned cultivators were all in great pain, struggling with great difficulty. And some who were originally struggling in agony gradually revealed a joyful look. They opened their eyes with a smile. There was even a strand of fanaticism in their eyes, and a black god imprint appeared on their forehead before disappearing. We have another brother. Let him out. The protector by the side immediately released those who had a black god imprint on their forehead. What exactly is this religion? Why is it so frightening that even rulers would submit to it? Within one of the cages, a muscular male was gritting his teeth and holding on. The unseen sound waves were tunneling into his soul, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. It was as if a dark maelstrom was about to devour his soul. As long as he did not resist, his soul would sink into it, and he would be able to escape from it. But how could he easily sink into it after becoming a ruler? No. This muscular male was forcefully holding on. This ancient sacred religion is too powerful. They have a secret technique that can trace our soul connection and destroy our other avatars. The more the muscular male thought about it, the more stifled he felt. He was originally a genius within the Golden Wing nation, and had cultivated for a short period before becoming a ruler. He even planned to set off for the Celestial Water City with his wife in hopes of joining the Great Void Heaven Temple. Who would have thought that he would meet the terrifying ancient sacred religion before setting off? I wonder how Qing Rua is doing. She is smarter than me, and should not be so unlucky to be captured. The muscular male thought. He gritted his teeth and held on. Clearly, his cultivation heart was much stronger than the surrounding rulers, and he could still hold on. Dongbua Shuang brought along 2 outer hall elders and a group of outer hall deacons as they traveled through the void at high speed. We are reaching soon. Dongbua Shuang ordered, everyone, prepare yourselves. Yes. All of them acknowledged. This time, it was the inner hall elders who were leading the group, and none of them dared to slack off. Who? They finally entered the region of the Golden Wing Nation. Very soon, Dongbua Shuang and a large group of people appeared in the sky above the Golden Wing Nation Royal Palace. There were a total of 33 of them, and all of them were void gods. 2 of them were at the Unity Realm, and they were releasing their auras wantonly. This was also an important place in the royal palace. Thus, Golden Wing Nation King immediately discovered them. Following that, he felt great joy. South Golden Wing Nation King brought along 3 protector elders and flew into the sky. He was incomparably respectful, welcome special envoy. He was slightly curious. From their attire, he could deduce that 30 of them were deacons, and 2 of them were outer hall elders. And who was that white-robed young man who seemed to be leading them? Activate the Golden Wing Nation Protective Array. From now on, forbid anyone from leaving. The moment anyone tries to break through the array and leave, you must immediately report to me. Dongbui Shuang ordered. Yes. Golden Wing Nation King immediately acknowledged respectfully. How you dealt with those devils in the past, do the same now. Go. Dongbui Shuang ordered. Yes. The 2 outer hall elders and 30 outer hall deacons acknowledged. Closely following that, they split into 4 teams. Each team was led by either an outer hall elder or a Unity Realm deacon. They rushed in all directions and began investigating and chasing after the devils. What identity does this white-robed young man have? It seems everyone listens to his orders. Golden Wing Nation King mumbled inwardly. Dongbui Shuang stood above the royal palace. He no longer cared about Golden Wing Nation King. Instead, he directly executed the Cosmos-ranked absolute art, the plate ripple diagram. Having cultivated for close to 2 billion years in the Palace Hall of Time, his attainments in the plate ripple diagram were not any weaker than the less than 13 apocalyptic swords. Wang, an unseen ripple spread out in all directions with Dongbui Shuang at the center. It was extremely hard to investigate in the sacred world, especially when the cunning enemies would deliberately conceal their aura. Hence, some simple scouting techniques were useless. Most ordinary scouting techniques would rely on the law domain. Under the suppression of the sacred world, a Unity Realm expert's law domain could only cover an area of 5,000 kilometers. Even a primal chaos realm giant's law domain would usually cover an area of 500,000 kilometers. This was their normal scouting range unless they knew an extremely powerful scouting secret technique. And the Cosmos-ranked absolute art plate ripple diagram was the only Ripple Dao Cosmos-ranked absolute art in the entire Great Void Heaven Temple. It was also unquestionably the best scouting technique in the Great Void Heaven Temple. What is he doing? Golden Wing Nation King felt puzzled. He did not even sense Dongbui Shuang's scouting technique. The unseen ripple seemed to be one entity with the ordinary ripples in the world. It was stealthily probing, covering an area of 250,000 kilometers in an instant. This was also the current limit of what he could probe. The white-robed Dongbui Shuang stood there. He was meticulously investigating the aura of every single living being within the region of 250,000 kilometers. It was simply a dream for anyone to hide from his plate ripple diagram. Chapter 836. There is a void god hiding his aura. Capture him. Shuang directly transmitted over to an outer hall elder. He even sent over a map and an image of the appearance of that void god who concealed his aura. Dongbui Shuang then directly teleported. There were not many void gods in the entire Golden Wing Nation. Any unfamiliar void gods that were not recorded in the intelligence reports would be captured. As for whether he would capture the wrong person, he would then slowly filter through them after capturing all of them. Every single time, he could only scout an area of about 500,000 kilometers. He would then teleport to another region and continue scouting. The entire Golden Wing Nation spanned a total of 5 million kilometers. To search through it once, Dongbui Shuang had to execute the plate ripple diagram several hundred times. He had to do it carefully every single time, and it would take him an hour to finish. Hong, the rope descended. It directly enveloped the ugly male who had hidden his aura. The ugly male revealed a look of shock when he saw this. He did not care about anything else and immediately turned into a stream of light in an attempt to escape. The rope traversed across the 500 kilometers of void and rapidly wrapped around the ugly male, binding him tightly. The 8 special emissaries from the Celestial Water City watched everything. It is really a void god hiding in the dark. Too formidable. Elder Dongbui is truly formidable. His scouting secret technique is much more profound than ours. The 2 outer hall elders and the 30 law enforcers formed a team of special emissaries who were slightly doubtful at first. They did not dare to disobey the orders of the inner hall elders. But when they truly acted, they discovered that every single capture was accurate. Within that secret residence, the violet-haired black-robed male was still hugging the mutated beast. Suddenly, his expression changed. Sacred emissary, there is a low-ranked sacred follower who has been captured. It should be a team from the celestial water city. This was the first piece of news. The violet-haired black-robed male was in slight disbelief when he received the news. Impossible. We have just acted for a month. Even if Elder Qian Yu personally led a team over, it should not be that fast. Unless it is the #1 expert in the Celestial Water City Elder Society, Elder Chun Wu, who personally set off. How could it be? It is impossible for Elder Chun Wu to act for such a small matter. He was clear. The two with the highest statuses in the Celestial Water City Elder Society were Elder Chun Wu. He was an unparalleled existence in the Unity Realm. Elder Qian Yu was second, but he was also extremely terrifying. However, to reach the Golden Wing Nation in a mere month, only Elder Chun Wu could travel through the void so quickly. However, the #1 expert of the Elder Group would not easily leave Tianshui City. Sacred Envoy, there are 2 low-leveled sacred followers that have been captured. It must be a team from the Celestial Water City and they have Unity Realm existences. Furthermore, their combined combat power is extremely strong. Saint, a low-level holy disciple has been captured. A total of 9 low-level holy disciples have been captured. News came one after another. The violet-haired black-robed male's expression changed. It was too fast. Every single low-ranked sacred disciple was at the void god level, and all of them had the hidden or a secret technique passed down by the ancient sacred religion. It was hard for them to be discovered if they were to hide. Now that the Heavenly Water City's team had just arrived, the holy disciples that were hiding in various parts of the Golden Wing country were discovered one after another. This was definitely not an ordinary Heavenly Water City's team. Not good. Although he believed that it was impossible for Elder Chun Wu to come, he still understood that it was impossible. Pass down my orders. All holy apostles are to split into 3 teams and leave as soon as possible. The black-robed man ordered. Following that, he gave the order. The holy apostle experts within the Golden Wing Nation began moving. Of which, 3 holy apostles who knew how to teleport moved separately. They were rapidly teleporting to bring their other comrades so that they could gather as soon as possible. The reason why they split into 3 teams was because there were only 3 holy apostles who knew how to teleport. They split into 3 gathering points and began gathering experts. Of which, the black-robed male's location was the core gathering point. There were 8 ordinary void gods stationed here, and at this moment, more void gods were willing to come. Because following the sacred envoy was the safest during life and death moments. During the night, high up in the sky of the Golden Wing Nation, Dongbua Shuang stood in midair. He was releasing an unseen ripple and was investigating all movements. Suddenly, a figure tore through the void and passed through the region he was investigating. Amen. Dongbua Ying's eyes brightened. Void penetration. He immediately chased after the other party stealthily. This figure tore through the void and arrived at a location. He immediately kept a comrade into his Eden treasure. Following that, he brought another comrade along. They are preparing to escape. Dongbua Shuang faintly felt that something was amiss because Devour-class devils were usually more selfish. They would not care about their comrades when escaping. They are gathering together and escaping. Aren't they afraid of being wiped out at the same time? Dongbua Shuang thought, are they confident? He was following behind silently. Relying on the plate ripple diagram, he was stealthily chasing after the other party. Very soon, the other party entered a residence. The moment he entered, he immediately released the 3 void gods he saved. The moment he checked this residence, it made the eyelids of Dongbua Shuang twitch. Because there were a total of 15 ordinary void gods in this residence, and 2 at the Unity Realm. There were even a large number of rulers trapped in cages. Amen. As Dongbu Shuang was investigating, the mutated beast in the bosom of the black-robed violet-haired male suddenly raised its head and let out an ear-piercing goot sound. Not good. The expression of the black-robed male changed greatly. He knew that there was a terrifying enemy scouting in the dark. Being a sacred emissary, he could not detect it at all. This scouting technique was too frightening. Break the array and leave immediately. The black-robed male ordered. Yes. Hong, a dazzling black light immediately shot into the sky from within the residence. It directly charged against the enormous array above the Golden Wing Nation. But because Dongbu Shuang had given the order, this nation-protecting array was maintained at full force. For a moment, the black-robed male and the others could not break the array. But such a frightening disturbance had alarmed the entire Golden Wing Nation. Not far away, the team led by Deacon Jiu Qi discovered this place. He immediately tore through the void and arrived in the blink of an eye. So many. Deacon Jiu Qi was slightly excited. He did not need to investigate and discovered that there was a group of void gods within the residence. These void gods did not conceal their aura. Clearly, they were working together to break the array. Kill! Deacon Jiu Qi ordered. Hong! He and the other 7 deacons behind him turned into a dazzling sword light. The enormous sword light charged downwards. The team from the Celestial Water City. At this moment, the black-robed male was leading his subordinates to break the array. After all, this was a nation-protecting array that the Golden Wing Nation had operated for many years. It was reinforced with many layers, and with their strength, they would need to attack 8 to 10 times before they could break it. Who would have thought that the team from the Celestial Water City would arrive so quickly? Kill them first. The eyes of the black-robed male immediately turned cold. The dazzling black light clashed with the enormous sword light. Dongbu Shuang displayed the plate ripple diagram and hid in the dark sky as he watched. He could easily determine the power of the other party's attack and knew that it could not threaten the lives of Deacon Jiu Qi and the others. After all, Deacon Jiu Qi and the others had grasped hold of the combination array passed down by the Great Void Heaven Temple. It was specially used for combat and was extremely powerful. Deacon Jiu Qi was even at the Unity Realm and was not someone to be trifled with. Hong, the 2 surges of power clashed. For a moment, it swept across the entire place, causing the walls of the residence to shatter. Many cages appeared. The defenses of the cages were great, and with Dongbu Shuang protecting them in the dark, those prisoners within the cages were not injured at all. As for the surroundings of the residence, it had been controlled by Dongbu Shuang, allowing the ripples to dissipate, preventing any innocent lives from being affected. Deacon Jiu Qi and the other 7 flew back to the sky. Their expressions were slightly ugly, so powerful. It seems they are stronger than us. And on the other side, the black-robed male led a large group of void gods behind him. He was also looking around him. The ripples from their battle had just charged out of the vicinity of the residence when they were dissipated unknowingly. This made the black-robed male feel pressured. He knew that there was an expert watching everything in the dark. Come out. Just the team under you can't deal against us. The black-robed male sneered. A white-robed young man appeared in the distant sky. Deacon Jiu Qi and the other 7 flew over when they saw this. All of them were extremely respectful. Elder Dongbu. The white-robed young man looked over. How dare you be so unbridled in the Golden Wing Nation? The black-robed male let out a sigh of relief when he saw this because he could see that the white-robed young man was merely at the origin birth realm. He should be an outer hall elder who should have cultivated some formidable scouting secret technique from the Great Void Heaven Temple. He was not afraid of the origin birth realm. You all must be mistaken. The black-robed male laughed. Those devils are unrelated to me. If I really want to devour them wantonly, do you think the Golden Wing Nation can stop me? Indeed, they can't stop you. The white-robed Dongbu Shuang nodded. Right. That is why you have wronged me. The black-robed male said, why don't you let me go? I'm not willing to step into this muddy water. Those devils should die. All of you should die too. Dongbua Shuang said. The expression of the black-robed male changed. He said with a low voice, "Why? Do you really want to continue fighting? The entire Golden Wing Nation might turn into ruins, and the majority of your subordinates would die too." There was silence. Deacon Jiu Qi and the others also looked towards Dongbua Shuang. They could see that this was not an ordinary team of devils. Instead, it was a superpower that was organized. They even vaguely guessed it because they all saw those cages. Should he turn a blind eye, or should he really continue to fight? This time, they were merely dealing against ordinary devils. If they were not strong enough, they would likely end up in a miserable state if they continued fighting. Within the cages, those survivors were also watching this scene. They saw that large group of void gods and the black-robed male. They also saw the white-robed young man and the 8 void gods facing each other in the sky. Unless they are afraid of the ancient sacred religion, they don't dare to act anymore. They were slightly anxious, yet they did not dare to speak. Because existences at this level were not people they could speak out of turn. Act. Kill them. Many of these cultivators who were imprisoned were extremely anxious because they knew how big of a calamity the Golden Wing Nation was facing during this period. Everything originated from this group of existences from the ancient sacred religion. You all can continue killing those devils, and we will leave. How about it? The black-robed male said with a smile. Dongbua Shuang, who was high in the sky, looked carefully. If I didn't guess wrong, you should be from the ancient sacred religion? The expression of the black-robed male changed. The expressions of his subordinates behind him also changed. Including Deacon Jiu Qi, all of them felt their hearts tightening. He actually said it out loud? If he said it out loud, there would no longer be any leeway. According to the rules of my great void heaven temple, any disciple of the ancient sacred religion must be killed without mercy. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang said. His voice reverberated across the world. Kill! The black-robed male roared. He brought his subordinates and charged into the sky. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang looked downwards. He extended his hand and pointed. Shwa shwa shwa, thousands of densely packed terminus soldiers transformed into dark purple fish. Thousands of dark purple fish blotted out the sky and covered the earth, directly enveloping the black-robed man and his group of subordinates. Those cultivators in the cages looked upwards. They saw that white-robed young man extending his hand and pointing, causing a large number of violet fishes to envelop the group of experts from the ancient sacred religion with a destructive aura. They could not help but feel excited. Chapter 837. The black-robed male and his group of subordinates were looking at the thousands of violet fishes in terror. Shwa shwa shwa, they were like arrows arcing through the sky. They were too fast. Even though they had yet to come into contact, those subordinates could feel their souls trembling. The gap between their realms was too big. These dark purple fishes were able to kill Unity experts like chopping melons and vegetables, let alone them. Ah! No, Sacred Master. All of them were in complete despair. A large number of violet fishes had penetrated through their bodies. They contained the profound mysteries of destruction from the Tao of slaughter and easily destroyed their bodies. Almost just a single penetration had caused other than the black-robed male and the mutated beast in his embrace, the other subordinates to turn into nothingness. Only some weapons and other treasures fell down. The black-robed male felt a chill down his spine. He was so frightened that he immediately teleported. He is just an origin birth realm void god. How could he be so strong? As he teleported, there were a total of more than 100 violet fishes that penetrated through the void chasing after him. Pu, the black-robed male did not have the time to dodge. As he teleported through the void, those violet fishes had already bombarded on his body. Nevertheless, there was a layer of black light on the surface of his body that resisted against those attacks. The black-robed male could feel the power of those violet fishes clashing against the protective god light. He could not help but feel terrified. Fortunately, it is fortunate that elder brother has bestowed me with a protective treasure. Otherwise, I would have died just now. The black-robed male had a savage look on his face. He appeared from nothingness and stared at Dongbu Shuang, who was in midair. Oh? He actually didn't die. The white-robed Dongbu Shuang was slightly startled as he watched from afar. Go, kill him. The black-robed male threw out the mutated beast in his embrace. He had a savage look on his face. His eyes were filled with fury. He had almost died. After that mutated beast flew out, it immediately let out an ear-piercing "gwa" sound. Its eyes stared at Dongbu Shuang and traces of lightning appeared in the surrounding void. The might of these lightning bolts caused Deacon Jiu Qi and the other experts to feel fearful. To be able to display such might under the suppression of the laws of the sacred world, this mutated beast's strength was considered terrifying even amongst Unity Realm experts. On the other hand, the white-robed Dongbu Shuang was still calmly watching everything. The strange beast's body was covered in glossy black fur. Its four hooves suddenly stepped on the void, instantly disappearing and charging over. Set! Dongbu Shuang shouted. Chi chi chi, countless fine ripples that could be seen by the naked eye tunneled into the void. At the same time, the densely packed dark purple fishes also entered the void and vanished. In just an instant, that mutated beast appeared in the void. It was entangled by countless translucent fine ripples while the densely packed dark purple fishes frantically tunneled into its body, destroying its body. It roared and struggled with all its might, causing many of the fine ripples to collapse. However, at the same time, the fine ripples continued to entangle it, causing it to be unable to use its full strength to defend against the attacks of the termination energy fishes. The termination energy fishes continued to enter its body. Under the encirclement of over 1,000 dark purple fishes, its struggles rapidly weakened. Very soon, it calmed down. It had already turned into nothingness, leaving behind only the storage ring and other items. What a powerful mutated beast! It should be at the pinnacle of the Unity Realm. Dongbu Shuang thought, if it was before I cultivated the plate ripple diagram, I would probably have to engage in close combat to have a chance of victory. Plate ripple diagram, the ultimate absolute art of the Tao of waves. In terms of domains, it was unquestionably the strongest in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Being the strongest domain type absolute art, coupled with the fish dragon kill that Dongbu Shuang created for the sake of getting through the third level of Star Pagoda, this area of effect killing technique coupled with his strongest domain type absolute art was miraculously effective. The peak Unity Realm mutated beast was killed just like that. Too terrifying. Is this the strength of Elder Dongbu? Deacon Jiu Qi and the other deacons watched with shock as the countless dark purple fishes tunneled into the mutated beast's body before turning it into nothingness. They could see the strength of the mutated beast. When the mutated beast erupted with its strength, they felt a dense threat. It was only then that they knew that this was the most terrifying mutated beast in the group of experts from the ancient sacred religion. But in the end, Elder Dongbu just stood there. From start to finish, he had been standing in midair, yet he still easily killed his enemies. Even if it is at the origin birth realm, Elder Dongbu is indeed an inner hall elder. If he wants to kill us, he would likely be able to do so in a breath of time. Deacon Jiu Qi and the others were both shocked and impressed. The strength of cultivators was that the strong were respected, so they would naturally respect the strong more. In the many cages in the ruins, the cultivators imprisoned in the cages were filled with resentment towards the ancient saint cult. However, they could also sense the terrifying strength of the ancient saint cult's experts. However, the white-robed young man in the sky who did not seem to have a strong aura did not even move. He merely pointed his finger, and countless fishes descended. A large group of experts from the ancient sacred religion was killed. Even the mutated beast that appeared later on, one that was much more terrifying than the Golden Wing Nation King, was easily killed by the white-robed young man. This unfathomable strength made them both excited and shocked. He was too powerful. No. The black-robed male was stunned when he saw this. This mutated beast was sent by his elder brother to follow him. It might look like a pet, but it was actually there to protect him. In terms of strength, it was definitely at the pinnacle of the Unity realm. This mutated beast could easily swallow 100 ordinary Unity realm experts. According to what he knew, in the entire Celestial Water City, only Elder Chun Wu could easily kill this mutated beast. Even if Elder Qian Yu personally made a move, the mutated beast would still be able to resist. But this white-robed young man who was merely at the origin birth realm was actually so terrifying. He is an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The black-robed male had also guessed it. Since he was already so terrifying at the origin birth realm, he must be an inner hall elder. Saying it was slow. A thought flashed in the black-robed male's mind. Following which, he shouted with a mighty voice, "Who are you?" The white-robed Dongbush Shuang looked down at the black-robed male. He looked at the protective black radiance on the surface of the black-robed male's body. He should have something similar to a life-saving talisman. However, once the energy is depleted, he won't be able to hold on any longer. With a thought from Dongbush Shuang, the densely packed dark purple fishes immediately turned around and attacked the black-robed male. When the black-robed male saw this, he gritted his teeth in anger. He glared at Dongbush Shuang with a ferocious gaze. Wang! A terrifying spatial ripple enveloped him and forcefully teleported him away. So, when the black-robed male was teleported away, he was still looking at Dongbush Shuang with killing intent and anger. It disappeared. Dongbush Shuang frowned. The spatial ripple had completely disappeared. Furthermore, it had disappeared to an extremely far distance. It had exceeded the range of his senses. I can't believe the biggest fish managed to escape. Dongbush Shuang could guess that since this black-robed male was able to command so many subordinates, he should be a sacred envoy of the ancient sacred religion. However, he actually managed to escape. He has a protective treasure and an escape treasure. He is definitely not an ordinary sacred envoy. Dongbush Shuang felt slightly vexed. Killing a sacred envoy would reward him with contribution points. The higher the status of the sacred envoy, the greater the reward. Regardless of whether it was for treasures to aid his cultivation or for cultivating in the Palace Hall of Time, he required a huge amount of contribution points. It's a pity that a sacred envoy had escaped. But he had no choice. The other party's protective god light could not even be shaken by his fish dragon kill. Furthermore, the other party had escaped far beyond the range of his senses. This kind of sacred envoy with a sufficiently high status had formidable survivability too. It was hard to kill him. Who? Dongbush Shuang descended. With a wave of his hand, he kept all the treasures of those dead void gods. At the same time, he turned around and ordered, Deacon Jiu Qi, protect the surroundings properly. Nobody is allowed to enter or leave the region of this residence ruins. Wait for me to investigate it thoroughly. Yes. Deacon Jiu Qi respectfully acknowledged. He knew that this matter involved the ancient sacred religion and could not be careless. Dongbush Shuang was instead looking in two other directions. There were battles going on in the other two directions, though it seemed that his side was about to win. Dongbush Shuaying's figure flashed before leaving through the void. Chapter 838. The members of the ancient sacred religion were split into 3 gathering grounds, of which the black-robed male was at the strongest location, and had been dealt with by Dongbush Shuang. The other 2 locations were much weaker. They did not even have a single Unity Realm expert. Even though they had the secret collaboration array from the ancient sacred religion, the collaboration array technique passed down by the Great Void Heaven Temple was not weak. Furthermore, the team from the Great Void Heaven Temple was stronger. The reason why they fought until now was because they knew from Dongbush Shuang that the enemies were members of the ancient sacred religion. Hence, they planned to capture them alive. Dongbush Shuang used the void maneuver to rush towards one of the gathering grounds. Over there, a team from the Celestial Water City was currently trapping 9 void gods from the ancient sacred religion. But it would take some time for them to capture them alive. We can't escape anymore. We can't escape anymore. What should we do? Let's fight. Every one of us who dies counts. For the sake of sacred master, kill. These void gods were slightly fanatical. And Dongbua Shuang stealthily appeared. He immediately executed the plate ripple diagram. For a moment, many transparent strands appeared from nothingness. They wrapped around the body of every void god and even permeated into the bodies of the enemies to seal their souls. But these void gods were extremely vigilant. When they felt energy permeating into their bodies, some of them actually chose to self-destruct. Hong Hong Hong, 6 of the 9 void gods did not hesitate to self-destruct. A terrifying power swept out in all directions before being suppressed by the ripples. Only 3 void gods reacted slightly slower, and their souls were sealed by Dongbua Shuang. They are all madmen. Dongbua Shuang frowned when he saw this: ancient sacred religion, ancestor mother religion. Ancient sacred religion, ancestor mother religion, they were 2 extremely terrifying superpowers that spread across the 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void. Behind the ancient sacred religion was a final realm existence, and also an existence that occupied the ancient sacred world, sacred master. And the ancestor mother religion was easy to guess. The ancestor mother religion believed in ancestor mother who occupied the ancestor mother world of the 5 great sacred worlds. These 2 sects were like cancerous tumors. The moment they entered a religion, they believed in sacred master or ancestor mother. They would be absolutely loyal. For example, after entering the ancient saint cult, the saint masters would surpass everything. For the saint master, they would be willing to die. Even if it was their loved ones, they would not hesitate to kill them for the saint master. He didn't even hesitate to commit suicide. This is a very sad thing. Cultivators who were slightly ambitious would not be willing to join the ancient sacred religion or the ancestor mother religion. But the ancient sacred religion and ancestor mother religion were too formidable. The other 3 great sacred world superpowers did not hesitate. If they discovered the ancient sacred religion or the ancestor mother religion, they would be killed without mercy. Naturally, the cultivation system had little to do with the religion. For instance, the ancient cultivation system could be found everywhere. Even the ancestor mother religion cultivation system would not be affected during the early stages of cultivation. If one felt that something was amiss, he could give up on the ancestor mother religion cultivation system and focus on other systems. But the moment his soul was branded with the ancient sacred imprint or the ancestor mother imprint, he would be doomed. Want to save them? However, there was still a chance of survival under the operation of the laws. For example, the Sacred Lord would take the initiative to retract his imprint, or the heaven-defying ancient cultivators could reverse the flow of time and change the past slightly. The past could be changed. This was a terrifying thing, but it could only be changed to a small extent. The area of influence had to be small, and the weaker the cultivators involved, the better. Regardless, the moment his soul was branded, he would be doomed. It would be hard for cosmos gods to save him. Elder Dongbua. The 8 special emissaries from the celestial water city immediately bowed respectfully. They self-destructed so easily. Dongbua Shuang looked at the ruins below. With a wave of his hand, he kept all the treasures left behind after the self-destruction. He even kept those 3 who were captured alive. The battle at the final assembly point had ended. Dongbua Shuang and the others had already returned to the ruined residence where the black-robed male was previously at. This was after all the core location of the enemies. Humph! Dongbua Shuang looked at the 5 void gods who had their strength sealed and were captured alive. Their personal treasures had been taken away. Dongbua Shuang immediately ordered, "Lock the 5 of them, along with those void gods we captured at the start. After that, bring them back to the celestial water city." Yes. The 2 outer hall elders and the 30 law enforcers respectfully acknowledged. Golden Wing Nation King added from the side, "This ancient sacred religion actually dares to spread their religion in my Golden Wing Nation. Elder Dongbua, if you have any instructions, feel free to tell me. I'll definitely do my best." Dongbua Shuang glanced at him. Golden Wing Nation King felt his heart trembling. During this month, he had actually gradually found out that the ancient sacred religion had infiltrated in. But he could only feign ignorance about this matter. The ancient sacred religion and the ancestor mother religion were two superpowers that could fight head-on against the other three great sacred worlds. They could casually send out some lackeys and they could easily wipe out their golden wing nation. How would he dare to intervene? As long as the ancient sacred religion was not too arrogant, he would act as though he did not discover anything. Search thoroughly for me. See if you can find any traces of this ancient sacred religion. Dongbua Shuang ordered. He casually entered a nearby residence. This residence was comparable to the base of the ancient sacred religion and was naturally luxurious. But currently, the Golden Wing Nation King had arranged for the original owner to temporarily leave, allowing the team of envoys to rest. Dongbua Shuang entered the house. With a wave of his hand, he took out all the treasures he obtained from killing the members of the ancient sacred religion. He began refining them and inspecting them thoroughly, searching for any traces. I hope I can find some clues and locate the important base of the ancient sacred religion. Dongbua Shuang thought. The base in the Golden Wing Nation was considered a small-scale base. There must be an even more important base. As long as he found it, the greater the contribution points he contributed, the more contribution points he would get. Dongbua Shuang did not dislike having too many treasures. Those cultivators who were imprisoned in the cages were released one by one. They were interrogated. These cultivators were relatively famous in the Golden Wing Nation. In addition, they had suffered greatly in the cages. Hence, they were relatively trustworthy. After the interrogation, they were released one by one. But they could not leave temporarily. They had to stay in the Golden Wing Nation Royal Palace and wait for a more thorough investigation. Too formidable. He is addressed as Elder Dongbua. Even our king has to be careful in front of him. He is so frighteningly formidable. Shwa shwa shwa, a dense number of fishes flew down, killing so many void gods. Those cultivators who were released felt much more relaxed. Since they could not leave temporarily, they were discussing in groups of 2s and 3s. Of which, there was a muscular male who was currently looking around. His face was filled with anxiety. Qing Rua isn't around. She should not have been caught. Because the communication items had been taken away previously, he could not send out any messages. Wang. The muscular male had regained his strength after being released from the seal. At this moment, he began executing his secret technique. He was a genius from the Golden Wing Nation, and his wife was even more dazzling than him. Other than tempering themselves, the two of them had a fortuitous encounter too. That fortuitous encounter had transformed their souls, and at the same time, formed a faint connection between their souls. He executed his secret technique and tried his best to sense with his soul. Not good. The expression of the muscular male changed. He relied on his soul to sense it. He could sense that the soul of his wife was very far away from here. She was very far away from the Golden Wing Nation. Furthermore, she was rushing over at an extremely fast speed. With such a fast speed, she must have penetrated through the void, and his wife was a ruler. She could not penetrate through the void. Unless... The muscular male immediately guessed it. His expression could not help but change. He immediately walked towards the two outer hall elders who seemed to be leading the group of void gods in the celestial water city. He respectfully said to one of them, "Senior, I wish to meet Elder Dongbua." "You wish to meet Elder Dongbua?" The two outer hall elders looked at this muscular male who had just been rescued. Not everyone is qualified to meet Elder Dongbua. What a joke. That was an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. He had an extremely high status in the 5 great sacred worlds. Even primal chaos realm giants had to treat him seriously. It's related to the ancient sacred religion. The muscular male transmitted. The two outer hall elders exchanged glances. I'll bring him to meet Elder Dongbua. You, follow me. The outer hall elder with a single jade green horn on his head said. He brought the muscular male and rushed over to meet Dongbua Shuang. He was not worried. A true god ruler who did not have any treasures or weapons would not pose any threat to him. Within the residence by the side. Within the hall. There was a huge pile of items placed on the ground. White-robed Dongbu Shuang was currently seated by the side. Many items were floating in front of him. He was carefully checking through them, yet he frowned. Clearly, he did not find anything. The base where the ancient sacred religion infiltrated was an extremely secretive place. It would not be easily leaked out. Dongbu Shuang looked outside the hall. Outside the hall, the single-horned outer hall elder brought a muscular male in. That muscular male directly said, "Elder Dongbu, I know where that leader of the ancient sacred religion, the black-robed man, is at." The eyes of Dongbu Shuang brightened. Chapter 839. The single-horned outer hall elder looked at the muscular man with dissatisfaction. This puny ruler actually spoke before he even spoke. Reporting to Elder Dongbu, he is called Lei Chen. He is one of the cultivators that was captured and imprisoned by the ancient saint religion. He is a rather famous genius cultivator in the Golden Wing Nation. His wife's innate talent is above his. The single-horned outer hall elder said respectfully. He was in charge of the investigation previously. With his incredible memory, he naturally remembered everything clearly. Dongbu Shuang nodded his head and looked at the muscular true god ruler. A genius cultivator. His wife's innate talent was above his. Do you know where the saint envoy of the ancient saint religion is? Shuang asked, are you confident? Currently, he is fleeing in panic. As for where he is fleeing to, I'm afraid other than himself, no one else can be sure. I am more than 90% confident. The muscular man Lei Chen replied. Speak clearly. Dongbu Shuang said. The muscular man Lei Chen looked at the white-robed young man and couldn't help but feel nervous and anxious. He was clear that with his current strength, he wouldn't be able to save his wife. As for the ancient saint religion, it was rumored that it was related to the supreme saint master of the ancient saint world. In front of such a huge and terrifying power, he was just a puny ant. Let alone him, even the Golden Wing Nation king who was thousands of times stronger would be an ant. The white-robed young man in front of him had an extremely high status. He was an expert from the Great Void Heaven Temple. Even the other special envoys of the Celestial Water City and the Golden Wing Nation king were very respectful to him. Only he would be able to save his wife. He couldn't miss this opportunity. In order to save his wife, he was willing to do anything. Elder Dongbu. Lei Chen said respectfully, my wife Qing Ruo and I have been cultivating step by step. We have experienced many dangers, but we also had fortuitous encounters. One of the fortuitous encounters caused my wife and my soul to undergo a transformation. Furthermore, we could faintly sense each other's soul. If we were to execute a secret technique to sense each other, the distance we could sense each other would be extremely far. When I was rescued by Elder Dongbo from the ancient sacred cult, I immediately sensed my wife's location after the seal was lifted and my strength recovered. However, I discovered that my wife was actually extremely far away from the Golden Wing Nation. Furthermore, it was moving forward at an extremely fast speed. With such a terrifying speed, it must be shuttling through the void. Qing Ruo is only a ruler, so there's no way she can teleport. She must have been taken away by some other expert. Golden Wing Nation, who would take her away? And it could even teleport? Furthermore, it is extremely far away from the Golden Wing Nation. Lei Chen said. I can only think of one possibility. I was captured. My wife, Qing Ruo's talent is above mine and she is famous in the Golden Wing Nation. I'm afraid that the ancient sacred cult did not let her off and captured her as well. Moreover, because my wife is highly valued by that sacred emissary, she might be imprisoned in that sacred emissary's Eden. After saying that, Lei Chen looked at Dongbu Shuang. He was nervous. Whether to rescue her or not, it would depend on the decision of this mysterious Great Void Heaven Temple Elder Dongbo. Would he agree? If he were to rescue her, would he face danger? Would this elder Dongbo be willing to take the risk? It is extremely far away from the Golden Wing Nation. Shuttling through the void. Dongbo Shuang was pondering. In the entire Golden Wing Nation, the number of people that could teleport could be counted with one's fingers. The rest had either died in battle or were still in the Golden Wing Nation. Only the black-robed man had escaped. To appear at a location that was extremely far away from the Golden Wing Nation, it was extremely hard to travel through the void normally. This was because he had spent a month rushing over from B-29 City. That black-robed man had executed an ultra-long-distance void teleportation to escape. This was also in line with this deduction. Furthermore, when Lei Chen sensed the black-robed man was still rushing over. In addition, the ancient sacred cult placed great importance on those who were extremely strong or talented. They wanted to make them believe in the ancient sacred cult. Hence, that sacred emissary had captured the talented Qing Rua and personally controlled her. This was normal. Oh? Dongbo Shuang looked at Lei Chen and chuckled, but how do I know what you said is true? None of what I said is false. Lei Chen became anxious. Elder Dongbo, his original anxious expression and surging emotions suddenly changed. Because Dongbo Shuang had stealthily lured his soul into the illusory realm. He had long grasped the Mirage law system, and his attainments in this aspect were relatively profound. If it were some of the more foolish void god-level void creatures, they would fall for it, much less Lei Chen who was merely a ruler. He had unknowingly fallen into it. Let me ask you, you and your wife. Dongbo Shuang continued. The single-horned outer hall elder felt slightly puzzled. Following that, he discovered with shock that this ruler called Lei Chen was currently answering him numbly. After a moment, Lei Chen felt his soul jolting. He had completely woken up, but he still felt vague about what had happened. He looked at this white-robed young man in front of him with slight shock. He was not too clear what had happened, but he understood one point: this white-robed young man must have done something to him. But at this moment, for the sake of saving his wife, he did not have any complaints. Alright, you should first refine an avatar. After that, we will immediately set off. The white-robed Dongbo Shuang said. No need. We have to hurry. Lei Chen anxiously replied. Chasing after them requires time. We don't lack this bit of time. Dongbo Shuang frowned and roared, go. Lei Chen was anxious, yet he could only accept the order and retreat. Following that, he used his fastest speed to nurture a fleshy embryo and split his soul into two. Furthermore, time was accelerated. Just half an hour later, he was brought by the single-horned outer hall elder to meet Dongbo Shuang. I want to chase after the ancient sacred religion. Dongbo Shuang looked at the single-horned outer hall elder and instructed, you guys will settle the matters here. After which, we will return to Celestial Water City. Yes. Although the single-horned outer hall elder was slightly worried, he did not dare to refute and immediately complied. Let's go. Dongbo Shuang brought Lei Chen and set off through the night. In the night sky, the moon of the sacred world hung high. Dongbo Shuang brought Lei Chen to the sky above the Golden Wing country. The Golden Wing country's city was still enveloped by a nation-protecting array. Where is that black-robed sacred emissary? How far is he roughly from here? Dongbo Shuang asked. Reporting to Elder Dongbo. Lei Chen waved his hand, and a huge map appeared in front of him. On the map, a region was marked out. He said softly, because it is too far away, my senses are slightly blurry. I can only confirm that it is roughly this region. Your senses are too blurry. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. This region was truly huge. But Dongbo Shuang was still slightly startled. He was startled because the black-robed sacred emissary had teleported to such a great distance. His life-saving teleportation treasure seems to be more effective than the teleportation talisman of my great void heaven temple. Dongbo Shuang thought. As long as the distance is close, my senses will be clearer. Lei Chen said. Go. Dongbua Shuang brought him along as they traveled through the void. Even though he still had the teleportation talisman from when he was a golden-robed disciple, the teleportation distance was too great. The laws and profound mysteries involved were beyond what he could control. The teleportation talisman should have been personally refined by a primal chaos giant or even forefather Tianyu. Once the power was depleted, it would explode. The moment the energy was depleted, the talisman would have to be replenished naturally. Even though he had another treasure that was more suitable for teleportation, he was not in a rush to use it unless it was necessary. After all, his goal was to track the black-robed sacred emissary and find the important base of the ancient sacred religion. He chased along the way. Other than using the teleportation treasure at the start, the black-robed sacred emissary spent the rest of his time traveling through the void. Being a powerful cultivator, he did not care about the flow of time. He even spent more than 600 years not going to the nearest B29 city. Instead, he deliberately took a detour to the relatively further A29 city. The guards of A29 city did not know that this black-robed man was from the ancient sacred religion. Naturally, they let him pass. Dongbua Shuang was afraid that something might happen. He was forced to use his teleportation treasure to chase after the black-robed man to A29 city. Relying on the teleportation city, he finally arrived at A35 city. After that, he traveled through the void for another 19 years. We have arrived. The black-robed sacred emissary looked at an unremarkable black city that appeared in the distance. The entire city occupied an area of just 50,000 kilometers. It seemed to be a small superpower. But in reality, this was an important base of the ancient sacred religion. This time, all my subordinates have died. The black-robed sacred emissary was slightly vexed. Over the long years, I have completed many missions and was about to become a high sacred emissary. Who would have thought that all my subordinates have died this time? I wonder how long I will have to wait before I can become a high sacred emissary. There was a strict hierarchy within the ancient sacred religion. It was extremely difficult to rise by one rank. That elder Dongbua. The black-robed sacred emissary's eyes were filled with rage. But he knew that although the ancient sacred world was stronger than the Great Void Heaven Temple, this was the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple. But this was the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple. If he truly wanted to fight, he could not win against that elder Dongbo. Hence, he could only endure. South, the black-robed sacred emissary transformed into a beam of light and flew into the Black City. After the time taken to brew a cup of tea, two figures appeared in the night sky. They were none other than Dongbua Shuang and Lei Chen. After more than 600 years of tracking, I have finally found this place. Dongbua Shuang looked at the Black City in the distance and revealed a smile. Chapter 840. Dongbua Shuang knew that the ancient sacred religion had a total of 90 important strongholds in the seven-star oceanic sacred world. Based on the fact that the Great Void Heaven Temple's territory took up one-third of the seven-star oceanic sacred world, there should be around 30 strongholds within the Great Void Heaven Temple's territory. These strongholds were of the same status, and all of them were directly connected to the ancient sacred world. The members of a stronghold would not know anything about another stronghold. Therefore, even if he could destroy one stronghold, he would not be able to destroy all of them. However, there were only 30 strongholds in the entire Great Void Heaven Temple's territory. If he could destroy one of them, it would definitely be a huge contribution. Dongbua Shuang glanced at Lei Chen. It's all thanks to him. He and his wife can actually sense each other's soul. Elder Dongbua, please save my wife. I can sense that my wife's soul is still sealed. She is sealed, so she definitely did not submit. Lei Chen said. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. That black-robed sacred envoy had been escaping all the way, so he most likely did not have the time to control the people he had imprisoned. We might have to fight next. You can stay in my Eden for now. As Dongbua Shuang spoke, he waved his hand and kept Lei Chen. Lei Chen also obediently allowed himself to be kept. At this moment, He could only hope that this elder Dongbua would be able to save his wife. This was the only thing he could do. After all, he was too weak. He would not be able to participate in a battle of that level. After keeping Lei Chen, Dongbua Shuang cast his gaze towards the Black City below. Within the Black City, in a dark hall, a man and a woman were sitting opposite each other. Both of them were not normal humans. The man's entire body was covered in a layer of frost armor, and his face was covered with white scales. As for the woman, she was a six-armed alluring woman. Both of their auras naturally filled the entire hall. Sacred Envoy Qi Yun is about to arrive. The man with the frost armor held onto a wine cup. The wine cup was filled with amber-like wine, and the fragrance of the wine permeated the air. Sacred Envoy Qi Yun is really miserable this time. The six-armed woman's eyes flashed with lightning. He's worked hard to lead his subordinates to preach, and his elder brother even gave him a mutant beast to help him. He's accumulated quite a bit of merit in these long days, and he's not far from being promoted to High Holy Envoy. But this time, he had lost all of his men. It was one thing for the mutated beast to die in battle. After all, it wasn't his subordinate. However, the other holy disciples had all been groomed to be suitable for preaching. Now that they were all dead, his credit was greatly reduced. I really don't know how long it will take for him to become a high divine envoy, and he will also need his brother's help. Don't rejoice in his misfortune. In the end, he is still Saint Wang Ming's younger brother, the man with the frost aura said. Humph, the six-armed alluring woman laughed. The rules of the ancient saint cult were very strict. In order to become a superior sacred envoy, one's strength had to reach the peak of the unity realm. Of course, there was another way to ascend within the sect, to accumulate enough merits. The black-robed male was indeed slightly weak, but with the help of his elder brother, he had many formidable helpers, and was about to become a high divine envoy. Furthermore, after he became a high divine envoy, with the help of his elder brother, he would definitely have more authority than most high divine envoys, and would obtain more benefits. Even though the frost male and the six-armed alluring woman felt jealous, they could only watch as everything happened. They did not dare to sabotage in the dark. They could only watch as the black-robed male continued to accumulate merits. Now that they had failed, the two of them felt great in their hearts. But they were delighted inwardly. They did not dare to do so openly. Saint Wang Ming, what was a saint? In the ancient sacred cult, only primal chaos giants were qualified to be called saints. Naturally, those Unity Realm experts who could fight against primal chaos realm experts were qualified to be called saints. Using the Star Pagoda to judge, they had to at least reach the 6th level of Star Pagoda. Even the Great Void Heaven Temple did not have a single Unity Realm expert who could get through the 6th level of Star Pagoda. Even the Great Void Heaven Temple could not do it despite being very good at fighting against those of a higher level. One could see that it was unfathomable for a Unity Realm expert to fight against even the weakest Primal Chaos Realm expert. Who? A figure flew into the palace hall from afar. It was that black-robed male. His expression was currently ugly. The frost male and six-armed woman immediately stood up to welcome him. Younger brother Qi Yun. The frost male walked over. His face that was covered in white scales was filled with heartache. Why are you so unlucky? Younger brother Qi Yun, you are so close to becoming a high sacred envoy, yet you have suffered such a huge loss. The six-armed woman added, Brother Qi Yun, don't be anxious. This time, we have suffered a huge loss, and our merits have been reduced by a lot. But we can take it slow. This elder sister will definitely do her best to help you. The two of them were sneering behind the other party's back. They were relatively carefree, but at this moment, they were wholeheartedly working for this black-robed male. That damnable elder Dong Bo, the black-robed male, directly sat down. He picked up the wine flask beside him and started drinking. After drinking a mouthful of pain, he suddenly placed the flask down. The flask smashed onto the table with a pang. He gritted his teeth. It is this elder Dong Bo who spoiled my plans. I have just been on the mission for a month, and he actually arrived. The frost male sat by the side and said, I have already investigated. The religion has also spread the information that this elder Dong Bo is called Dongbo Shuang. It is said that he is an amazing genius who came from a certain cosmos in the primal chaos void. He became a golden-robed disciple of the great void heaven temple in that cosmos. It is said that he came from the same cosmos as Ancestor Devil and Sword Master. Ancestor Devil and Sword Master? The black-robed male snorted inwardly. Ancestor Devil was the Hall Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Sword Master was even one of the final realm existences. Furthermore, he came to the Great Void Heaven Temple for less than 100 million years before becoming a void god. Furthermore, he passed through the third level of Star Pagoda and became an Inner Hall Elder. The Frost Male helplessly said, an Origin Birth Realm Inner Hall Elder would definitely be treated as a treasure by the Great Void Heaven Temple. Furthermore, this is the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple. We can't win against him. It is normal for the incarnations of Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master to descend at the crucial moment. The black-robed male felt anxious. He knew that he could not win against the other party in terms of direct combat strength. He could not win against the supporting force behind them either. Even though the ancient sacred religion was strong, this was ultimately the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple. They could only develop in the dark and could not fight against the other party directly. He was furious and anxious. But he could only endure. Wait, there will be a day, there will be a day. The black-robed male thought. He could only roar in his heart. He did not say it out because he was afraid of being ridiculed by his companions. Even he knew that he no longer had the chance to take revenge. Younger brother Chi Yun, you should rest first. The matter of spreading the religion isn't urgent. The frost male said. The black-robed male nodded. He had to contact his elder brother too. Because the mutated beast had died in battle, and he did not have any powerful subordinates. It was hard for him to spread the religion just by relying on some sacred disciples. They had to have sufficiently powerful experts before the efficiency of spreading the religion could be greatly increased. Come, accompany me for a drink. The black-robed male Chi Yun said. All right. Come, big sister has plenty of good wine. The two of them were clearly the highest authority in this base. They were both upper sacred emissaries, yet they were polite to a lower sacred emissary and did not dare to offend him. They had just drunk for a short while. The expression of the six-armed girl changed slightly. She transmitted, be careful. The warning array has discovered a void god and a true god ruler appearing outside the city. They are currently spying on us in the dark. Oh, that true god ruler has been kept into his Eden. His appearance should be that Elder Dong Bo whom we investigated previously. Elder Dong Bo? That Origin Birth Realm Inner Hall Elder? The expression of the frost male changed. The eyes of the black-robed male were filled with killing intent. Even though Dongbo Shuang was vigilant, he had too little contact with the ancient sacred religion. This was ultimately the #1 superpower in the 5 great sacred worlds. Sacred Master was an existence that could become enemies with almost all final realm existences. At the moment he arrived, he had been discovered by the warning array of this black city. Chapter 841. The six-armed woman and the frost man had ugly expressions. They looked at the black-robed man angrily. Our encampment is extremely important. There are only 90 encampments in the entire 7-star oceanic sacred world. It is the core of our mission. The frost man transmitted solemnly, now that the inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple has arrived outside our encampment, this encampment has already been exposed. The only thing we can do now is to minimize our losses. The black-robed man gritted his teeth and transmitted solemnly, this has nothing to do with me. The first thing he wanted to do was push the blame away. The six-armed woman and the frost man glanced at him but did not say anything. Because the final punishment would be decided by the upper echelons of the ancient sacred religion. The black-robed man, sacred emissary Qi-yun, had provoked the inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Dongbu Shuang, when he was preaching in the Golden Wing Nation. Now that sacred emissary Qi-yun had just returned to the encampment, Dongbu Shuang had already arrived. As long as one was not a fool, they could guess that Dongbu Shuang was following them in the dark. Perhaps, he had left some sort of tracking imprint on sacred emissary Qi-yun. Immediately lead the other sacred emissaries to the underground sacred palace. The Frost Man ordered, move the sacred master sculpture as fast as possible. Once it's done, immediately teleport away. Yes. The six-armed woman and the black-robed man, sacred emissary Qi-yun, acknowledged. Why was there only 90 encampments in the vast seven-star oceanic sacred world? It was because every encampment required a sacred master sculpture. No matter if it was to communicate with the distant ancient sacred world or to control many cultivators, they required the help of the sacred master sculpture. In the Golden Wing Nation, controlling the cultivators was a low-level method. It could only control the weaker cultivators. Even true god rulers could resist it. Only a few with weak spirit cultivation could not resist it. And the moment they arrived in front of the sacred master sculpture, by borrowing the power of the sacred master sculpture, there were some extremely strong true god rulers with strong spirit cultivation. Even Origin Birth Realm and Unity Realm existences with weaker minds could generally be forcefully controlled. By branding their souls, they would be absolutely loyal to the sacred master. Even though Dongbu Shuang is here, I'm afraid he doesn't dare to be absolutely certain that this is an important base of our ancient saint religion, the cold-looking man said. I'll go deal with him and try my best to delay for time. If we can kill him, it will be a great merit. The black-robed man, sacred emissary Qi-yun, said. Kill an inner hall elder? Their life-saving methods are very powerful. The man with the frost aura was rather furious. Even if they succeeded in moving the sacred leader's statue, they would still have to give up this base. The ancient saint cult would still punish them. If they couldn't even protect the sacred leader's statue, the punishment would be terrifying. Whoosh! The frost man immediately flew out of the dark hall. The six-armed woman and the black-robed divine emissary Ban Yun immediately took action. They even sent voice transmissions to the other divine emissaries, telling them to quickly head to the underground holy palace. They had to move the sacred leader's statue as soon as possible. White-robed Dongbu Shuang stood in the air and stared at the black city in front of him. He directly unleashed his plate ripple diagram, sending out formless ripples. However, the black city was actually blocked by the revolving arrays. Who dares to invade my Black Mountain City? A figure flew out. It was that frost man. He was emitting a grand aura, causing the surrounding void to be filled with ice and snow. This frost man frowned and roared out, "Who are you?" White-robed Dongbu Shuang was too lazy to delay for time. He was clear that the most important thing in the base of the ancient sacred religion was the sacred leader statue. Even though it would take some time to move the sacred leader statue, it wouldn't take too long. Hong! Dongbu Shuang extended his right hand, causing a command token to appear. It was the identity token of an inner hall elder. The command token was grand and emitting a terrifying aura. There was even a towering and dazzling illusory palace that appeared behind Dongbu Shuang. This illusory aura was filled with a suppressive force. It was comparable to the aura of primal chaos experts. This was the illusory image of the Great Void Heaven Temple. It could not be faked. I am an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Dongbu Shuang directly roared out, "Hurry up and remove the array of your Black Mountain City. If anyone disobeys, it is equivalent to disobeying my Great Void Heaven Temple. All of you will be treated as members of the ancient sacred religion and will be killed without mercy." An inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple? The frost man paled when he saw that. He hurriedly replied respectfully, "This Sir Elder, I am currently cultivating in seclusion here." "Why is Sir Elder?" "Don't speak nonsense." Dongbu Shuang frowned. His eyebrows were like the edge of a sword. He did not want to let this frost man drag for more time, Hurry up and remove the array. I am currently refining a precious treasure. My countless years of hard work are all concentrated in this cauldron. I can't. The Frost Man still wanted to delay. Kill. A cold light flashed in the eyes of Dongbu Shuang. Even though he did not have absolute confidence that this Black City was an important base of the ancient sacred religion, he was 70 to 80% confident. Furthermore, that black-robed man had entered previously. Now that he had revealed his identity, the black-robed man did not allow him to investigate. There must be a problem. Xiao xiao xiao, accompanied by Dongbu Shui Ying's furious roar, a dense number of 300 deep violet fishes flew out from Dongbu Shui Ying's body. All of them charged towards the Frost Man. At the same time, countless translucent ripples wrapped around the Frost Man. The Frost Man shouted, "Sir Elder, I am refining a precious treasure. My incarnation is currently in front of the cauldron. I cannot be affected." As he shouted, the Frost Man immediately resisted. A crystal-clear armor condensed on the surface of his body. At the same time, an ice sword appeared in his hands. Even though his body was being wrapped by the countless ripples, he still instantly brandished his sword. Shwa! The space started to freeze, forming a restriction that affected the surrounding ripples. It also affected the incoming Terminus soldiers, causing their speed to decrease greatly. At the same time, a dazzling sword light shot towards the incoming Terminus soldiers. 300 deep violet fishes surged forth like a school of fishes. Instantly, they clashed with the sword light of the ice sword. Many of the Terminus soldiers that were already slowed down were destroyed by the sword light. However, there were 4 deep violet fishes whose aura suddenly surged. Xiao! 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 It was as though 4 mystical dragons streaked across the sky and directly attacked the Frost Man. Even though the Frost Man's speed was greatly affected by the ripples, he still wielded the ice sword in his hands brazenly and blocked the extremely ferocious 4 mystical dragon-like Terminus soldiers. These 4 Terminus soldiers were executing the 3rd sword of the 13 apocalyptic swords. This was also the reason why there were only 300 fishes. It was because if he executed too many Terminus soldiers, it would be too taxing on his mental strength. He would not be able to execute the apocalyptic 3rd sword easily. Bang, 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 bang. The cold sword light refracted time and time again. The Frost Man's sword light was very strange. It actually blocked the attacks of 4 Terminus soldiers at the same time. Even though the other Terminus soldiers also surrounded him, they were unable to break through his ice armor. They only affected his speed. Occasionally, he would be hit by the apocalyptic 3rd sword and a hole would appear on his body. Suddenly, the densely packed fishes all disappeared. All that was left were the 4 mystical dragon-like Terminus soldiers attacking him. In the distance, Dongbu Shuang had also disappeared into thin air. Shwa! In an instant, Dongbu Shuang appeared by the Frost Man's side and thrusted his spear furiously. Teleportation? The Frost Man laughed coldly. Without the influence of so many fishes, he was still able to block Dongbu Shui Ying's spear while blocking the 4 Terminus soldiers. Boom! At the moment when he blocked the spear, another spear thrusted out from the void. It was too sudden. Because he was already dealing with the 4 Terminus soldiers and had to use all his strength to block the spear, he did not have enough time to block the last spear that appeared at such a close distance. However, the Frost Man still calmly used his body to block the spear because he had previously blocked the apocalyptic 3rd sword's Terminus soldiers. Boom! The spear pierced into the Frost Man's body, causing his expression to change. Wrong! He was ridiculously wrong. This spear was a high-grade void divine weapon. The spearhead was covered with Terminus soldiers. Furthermore, the terrifying energy contained within the 28th level of Walker's hidden secret was completely imbued into this spear, allowing the apocalyptic 3rd sword to be unleashed. It was much stronger than the apocalyptic 3rd sword executed purely with the Terminus soldiers. His body was instantly torn apart, and the destructive energy engulfed his body. Peng peng peng, because his body was torn apart, Dongbu Shuiying's spear immediately emitted many strands of Terminus soldiers. Many Terminus soldiers' fishes were crazily destroying his body. Dongbu Shuiying also thrusted out his spear 3 times at lightning speed. Just after the third spear, the shattered body of the frost man dissipated. He was still filled with disbelief and despair. He did not believe that he would lose to an origin birth realm void god. Even if he was an inner hall elder of the great void heaven temple, he was only at the origin birth realm. Humph, Dongbu Shuiying watched coldly at everything. He had gotten through the 3rd level of Star Pagoda without cultivating the plate ripple diagram. Currently, with the plate ripple diagram restricting the other party could only unleash part of his strength. It was normal for him to die. Saying it was slow, but in reality, the battle between Dongbu Shuiying and the Frost Man was extremely fast. First, it was a group attack followed by close combat. Not even a breath of time had passed before the other party died. Not good. The expression of the 6-armed girl who was already in the sacred palace hall beneath the Black City changed greatly. She relied on the warning array to see that the Frost Man had died. Chapter 842. The underground sanctum was very spacious. There was a towering statue in the center of the temple. Around it, the walls of the temple actually had a total of 8 statue phantoms surrounding the statue in the center. As long as one entered the underground sacred hall, there would be towering statues in all directions. There would be an invisible power permeating the entire sacred hall. At this moment, dozens of holy envoys were gathered here. They were rapidly dismantling the holy temple. In order to allow the Sacred Lord statue to unleash enough power to control even stronger cultivators, the Sacred Lord statue had to be extremely powerful. That was why the holy temple had to be built to fuse with it. Now, it had to be dismantled, or else it would be impossible to take away the Holy Lord statue. The first city lord is dead? The group of holy envoys were all a little shocked. It was too fast, the first city lord died too fast. The black-robed man, sacred emissary Qi Yun, glanced at the 6-armed lady beside him and snorted coldly, "If you had gone to deal with that Dongbu Shuiying of the Great Void Heaven Temple, you wouldn't have been defeated so quickly even if you had joined hands." The 6-armed woman was truly furious. For so many years, he had been tolerating him. This time, his encampment was exposed because of sacred envoy Qi Yun. Now, he was blaming him for not going out to fight. "You fool! If I were to fight with you, even a fool would be able to guess that this is an extremely important place with 2 peak Unity Realm experts appearing at the same time." The 6-armed lady was furious. If there was only one expert heading out, it could still be explained as an expert living in seclusion. Both of them were at the peak of the Unity Realm. When had peak Unity Realm experts become so common? You actually dare? The black-robed sacred envoy Qi Yun was enraged. "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and move the Holy Master's statue," the 6-armed woman shouted angrily. She didn't care anymore. As her companion had died too quickly, the 6-armed woman vaguely knew that the possibility of moving the Sacred Master's sculpture away was rather low. Even if she managed to escape with her life, the Sacred Master's sculpture would be destroyed, and the punishment from the ancient saint cult would be worse than death. Moreover, even if she managed to survive, her life would be even more miserable. The absolute loyalty that came from her soul caused her to never think of leaving the ancient sacred cult. Even though she was in despair, she was willing to accept the punishment. However, when it came to Saint Envoy Qi Yun, she only felt rage. "Hurry, hurry, hurry!" The 6-armed woman shouted angrily with a ferocious expression. All the sacred envoys were doing their best to dismantle the sacred hall. They had even sent out their incarnations, but the construction of the sacred hall was too complicated. Only those at the Unity Realm could barely dismantle it, and they needed some time to do so. "Block him. We need to stall for time. I hope he's greedy for credit and hasn't reported this to the Great Void Heaven Temple." The 6-armed woman was filled with anticipation. In the night sky, Equipment Spirit, can you find out what's going on inside the Black City? Dongbui Shuang asked. This won't do. There are invisible ripples that are obstructing my probing. The Black Gourd's probing ability was very formidable. However, even when facing an important encampment of the ancient sacred cult, it was still incapable of probing it. Dongbui Shuang waved his hand and kept the items left behind by the Frost Man. Then, without hesitation, he attacked with all his might. Boom boom boom, countless dark purple fishes attacked the same spot in a frenzy. Ripples appeared on the surface of the Black City, and the hidden spell formation was revealed, forcefully resisting the attack of the dark purple fishes. Boom! Dongbui Shuang attacked with his spear as well. Under the attacks of the dark purple spear, the array only shook slightly. However, it wasn't able to break through the spell formation. Its defense is pretty strong. Dongbui Shuang frowned. Use your final killing move. If it doesn't work, I can only report it upwards. Since he didn't have full confidence in his investigation, Dongbui Shuang wasn't too willing to report it upwards. However, the encampment of the ancient sacred cult was extremely important. The reward from the Great Void Heaven Temple was 1 million contribution points. That was equivalent to 100 Origin World rocks. It was said that the price that the ancient sacred world had to pay to construct an encampment was 10 times that of 100 Origin World rocks. It was said that the most precious thing was that sculpture of the Saint Master. Dongbui Shuang flipped his hand and a black gourd appeared in his hand. In the underground sacred palace. While the six-armed woman was also rapidly dismantling the sacred palace, she was also making use of the spell formation to observe the movements in the outside world. That Origin Birth Stage Inner Hall Elder, Dongbui Shuang, of the Great Void Heaven Temple attacked the spell formation twice before giving up. Instead, he took out a black gourd. Black gourd? The six-armed woman was puzzled. What treasure is that? Fortunately, as long as he doesn't report it upwards, we still have hope. The six-armed woman hoped silently. Following which, she discovered that the white-robed Dongbui Shuang had pulled out the stopper of the black gourd. Paw! The stopper was pulled out. Dongbui Shuang revealed a look of anticipation. Hong, a fiery red crystal ball the size of a finger flew out from the mouth of the black gourd. At the instant it flew out, it expanded rapidly. In an instant, it had already transformed into a huge fireball with a diameter of 10,000 li. As for Dongbui Shuang, he had already entered the core of this huge fireball. The huge fireball illuminated the night sky, causing the originally dark night to become dazzling. Countless gray ripples surged, and there was even a fiery liquid tumbling around. Countless void divine runes flowed on its surface. Countless void divine runes densely covered the entire huge fireball. It completely suppressed and controlled the tyrannical power of the fireball. The profoundness of the void divine runes was even greater than the fireball. Wang, countless densely packed void divine runes rippled and directly penetrated the spell formation below, and even spread to the underground sacred palace below. Moreover, its area of influence was extremely large. It continued to spread, and an area of 10,000 li was under its control. Void spell formation. Dongbui Shuang was inside the fireball, and he could not help but exclaim when he sensed the huge void spell formation. It was this void spell formation that perfectly controlled this celestial body that was comparable to his hometown sun star. Being a voidwalker who had reached the final realm, Gu Qi, his attainments in the void had reached an unfathomable realm. By relying on the void spell formation, Dongbui Shuang could control an area of 10,000 li. Furthermore, he could use the ultra-long distance, Great Void teleportation. This was his strongest escape technique. Controlling the fireball and controlling the void spell formation to escape. The fireball could protect him, and the spell formation could allow him to escape quickly. Unless the true body of a primal chaos realm giant appeared, it was practically impossible to deal against him. Within the underground sacred palace. The six-armed girl and the black-robed male revealed looks of terror and despair. They could feel the surrounding space solidifying. An incomparably terrifying void suppression was descending. Teleport, hurry up and teleport. The black-robed male immediately tried to control the teleportation treasure given to him by his elder brother. But no matter how he activated it, he could not teleport at all. The black gourd was a protective treasure. Only when Dongbu Shuang became a void god could he unleash its third-level power, which was also its final power. The power of the fireball could be completely controlled, and the void array could be completely activated too. This was a void array personally constructed by Gu Qi. Even a primal chaos realm giant would have to rely on his strength to tear apart the void in order to escape from this void suppression. In terms of pure control of the void, it could not be compared with this array. We can't escape anymore. The six-armed girl's face was filled with despair. This void suppression was too strong. Hong, the white-robed Dongbu Shuang, was within this enormous fireball with a diameter of 5,000 kilometers. He controlled this terrifying fireball to descend abruptly. This was simply a furious smash from the entire sun star. Furthermore, the power of the sun star was too scattered, and the power of this fireball was completely converged into one under the control of the void spell formation. Its power had reached the primal chaos realm. It was just that he was lacking in terms of realm. He could only use the most barbaric technique and could not fight against the true body of a primal chaos realm giant. But against a unity realm expert, it could sweep across all. Pooh, even though the array of the Black City was firm, it shattered under the descent of this enormous fireball. The entire Black City trembled under such power. Chapter 843. A large group of sacred followers lived within the Black City. They flew out like locusts, and when they looked up and saw that huge fireball that was emitting endless heat, they were completely frightened. After all, the strength of the sacred followers was much weaker. The strongest among them were ordinary void gods, and most were true gods. Facing the terrifying suppression from a primal chaos realm, they could not help but feel despair in their hearts. This is more terrifying than the sun star in the sky. Too frightening. These sacred followers did not have any thoughts of resisting. Who? That huge fireball suddenly shrunk. It turned into a dazzling rainbow light before smashing down on the ground at the core of the entire Black City. Sacred Palace. It's the Sacred Palace. Hurry up and stop him. The eyes of these sacred followers turned red at that moment. The loyalty that came from their souls made them disregard their fear and rush in the direction of the underground Sacred Palace. In their subconscious, even if they died, they would protect the Sacred Palace well. Dongbu Shuang had easily grasped the situation within a region of 5 million kilometers through the void array. Naturally, he discovered this underground Sacred Palace. The huge fireball rapidly shrunk before smashing down, destroying many mechanisms and restrictions along the way to the underground Sacred Palace. The ultimate power of the Black Gourd relied on hiding within the fireball for protection, and relying on the entire fireball to smash down. It was a simple smash, yet its power was horrifying. The fireball that was comparable to the sun star rapidly shrunk. It was completely condensed into a smash. In terms of brute force, it was absolutely at the level of a primal chaos realm giant. Within the underground Sacred Palace. Not good, he is here. The six-armed girl trembled slightly as she looked outside the palace door. The black-robed sacred emissary Qi Yun and the other sacred emissaries could feel a terrifying power destroying all obstructions leading to the underground Sacred Palace. Hong Long Long, the fireball that shrunk to a diameter of 100 meters appeared by the entrance of the Sacred Palace. It rolled in. This fireball was dazzling. Even the group of sacred emissaries found it dazzling. Within the fireball, there was a figure faintly visible. It's over. The six-armed girl could not summon any thoughts of resisting. Just like a peak Unity Realm expert who passed through the third level of Star Pagoda, facing an ordinary Unity Realm expert at the first level of Star Pagoda, it would be a large-scale massacre. And those who had passed through the fifth level of Star Pagoda and reached the boundary of the Primal Chaos Realm could easily slaughter peak Unity Realm experts. Even if they faced a true primal chaos realm expert, it was still possible for them to escape. The fireball from the Black Gourd was comparable to a level 6 fireball in terms of pure power, but it was much weaker in terms of technique. Overall, it was comparable to a level 5 fireball. With this Black Gourd, as long as his primal chaos true body did not act, he would not have to worry about self-preservation. From this, it could be seen that the ultimate existence, Gu Dai, valued and cherished his disciples very much. Eldest brother, eldest brother. The black-robed man, sacred emissary Qi Yun, anxiously sent a message for help. His elder brother was in the faraway ancient saint world and it was extremely difficult to send a message from such a far distance. The members of the ancient saint cult who were stationed here would usually communicate with the ancient saint world through the sacred leader's statue. There were only 3 who could contact the ancient saint world with their own communication treasures. Other than the Frost Man and the 6-armed woman, there was only sacred envoy Qi Yun. His communication treasure was personally bestowed by his elder brother. Big brother, save me, save me. Sacred emissary Qi Yun was currently in complete despair and fear. He didn't know what to do as he couldn't see any hope of escaping. The void was completely suppressed, and there was no way to teleport. He could only fly slowly. Fly! Escape from this elder Dongbua who was controlling these terrifying fireballs. The 6-armed woman glanced at sacred envoy Qi Yun. Seeing how anxious he was, she couldn't help but laugh coldly as she transmitted a message, "Fool, you won't be able to escape. Even if your elder brother wants to save you, he's far away in the ancient saint world and won't be able to rush over." Boom! The rolling fireballs were extremely fast as they smashed onto the bodies of the sacred envoys. The heat of the fireballs was secondary. The most important thing was the strength of the collision. Pang! 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 The fireballs were like illusions as they collided continuously. Dongbua Shuang smashed his way through. As long as the sacred envoys were hit, their bodies would be smashed into smithereens. However, the items that they were carrying were still protected by Dongbua Shuang using the void array. Pang! The black-robed sacred envoy Qi Yun was the 3rd sacred envoy to be struck by the fireball. The surface of his body was covered with a protective layer of light. However, the first strike from the fireball had caused the black protective layer of light to be smashed into smithereens. After a slight pause, the fireball continued on its way. The black-robed man widened his eyes as he looked at the terrifying fireball crashing towards him. His eyes were filled with despair. Following which, the fireball continued on its way, smashing the black-robed man into smithereens. His items were also absorbed into the fireball by the void array. Dongbua Shuang was within the fireball and wasn't injured at all. His items were absorbed into the fireball one by one. That 6-armed woman was facing the suppression of the fireball. However, she still charged forward in a frenzy. Each of her 6 hands was holding onto a curved blade. For a moment, she turned into a demonic bloodlight. However, under the suppression of the fireball, her body was still smashed into smithereens. No one could resist it. The black-robed sacred envoy Qi Yun's protective treasure was only able to stop the fireball for a moment. In less than a breath's time. Within the underground sacred hall, all the sacred envoys were dead. Within the fireball, Dongbua Shuang looked at the statue of the sacred lord. The statue of the sacred lord looked as though it was carved out of black jade. It was draped in a silk robe and its eyes were calm yet seemed to contain boundless profoundness. Looking at this statue of the sacred lord would cause one to feel an uncontrollable urge to submit to it. Sacred lord? Dongbua Shuang thought, the one who monopolizes the entire ancient saint world. The undisputed strongest expert amongst the final realm existences. Boom! Without any hesitation, Dongbua Shuang controlled the fireball and charged over. Boom! The fireball slammed onto the statue of the sacred lord. The statue of the sacred lord was one with the entire sacred hall. It was completely fixed and hard to move. However, the sacred envoys had already dismantled a portion of the sacred hall earlier on. At this moment, the full force of the fireball still caused the statue of the sacred lord to be sent flying. It then slammed into a wall far away before falling down. Both of the statue's legs were still connected to the black metal. There was even a dent on the chest area of the statue. Based on the intelligence, the statue of the sacred lord must be destroyed after obtaining it. Dongbui Shuang thought, however, it seems to be quite sturdy. My full force strike only caused a dent. South Dongbui Shuang controlled the void and kept the statue of the sacred lord into a brand new paradise treasure. It's better to send it back to the great void heaven temple and let the sky palace slowly destroy it. Dongbui Shuang thought to himself. After a simple check on this tattered underground sacred hall, Dongbui Shuang rode on the fireball and flew out. With a whoosh, he shot up into the sky and flew out along the passage he came from. In the outside world, within the Black City, a large group of holy disciples were originally rushing over. However, the moment the statue of the sacred lord was sent flying, all of them stopped in their tracks as a look of despair appeared on their faces. Sacred Lord! Sacred Lord! All of the holy disciples stood up solemnly. Their hands formed seals as they called out, Sacred Lord. Following which, their bodies disintegrated into nothingness. When Dongbui Shuang kept the statue of the sacred lord and rode on the fireball to fly out, he saw a large number of holy disciples standing within the Black City. Their faces were filled with holiness as their bodies disintegrated into nothingness. Dongbui Shuang watched everything silently. All the holy disciples within the Black City had died. All of them had turned into nothingness. Currently, there was only Dongbui Shuang left alive within the Black City. The fireball floated within the Black City. Dongbui Shuang looked at the deathly silent Black City. The ancient sacred religion and ancestor mother religion deserve death. Dongbui Shuang muttered. They wantonly spread their religion and even controlled many cultivators, forcing them to be absolutely loyal to the sacred lord and ancestor mother. If they were not controlled, why would they die just because the statue of the sacred lord was snatched away? Chapter 844. Within the Cultivation Eden Treasure. Several dozen cages were filled with cultivators. More than half of them were true god rulers, and a small portion were void gods. They were temporarily brought along by the black-robed sacred emissary Qi Yun when he was spreading his religion. He felt that he could not control them by relying on the cages alone. Thus, he temporarily brought them along with him and prepared to control them through the underground sacred palace. Nevertheless, this time, when he returned to the base in a sorry state, Dongbui Shuang came attacking. Until the black-robed sacred emissary Qi Yun died, because he was focused on moving the sacred master sculpture at the start, and later on, he was facing death in despair. He had forgotten that there were still cultivators imprisoned within the Cultivation Eden treasure. In his heart, they were all ants. He had only brought along those with high talents for the sake of earning contribution points. Fortunately, they are still alive. After refining the Cultivation Eden treasure, Dongbui Shuang sent his consciousness into this Cultivation Eden treasure. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Qing Ruo is also alive. Because of that muscular male Lei Chen, Dongbui Shuang had deliberately collected intelligence on his wife, Qing Ruo. Knowing the appearance of the other party, Dongbui Shuang was able to immediately recognize Qing Ruo within one of the cages. Dongbui Shuang's energy descended. Many cages were opened, and the cultivators whose souls were sealed within were also released by Dongbui Shuang. What is happening? Why did they let us out? These cultivators were slightly dazed. The ancient sacred religion was very cautious. It was impossible for them to release the seals on their souls because the moment they were released, they could commit suicide at any time. But now that they were released, these cultivators could vaguely guess that they might have been saved. Very soon, I'll bring all of you to the Celestial Water City. By then, all of you will regain your freedom. Dongbui Shuang's voice reverberated within the Cultivation Eden treasure. We have been saved. Celestial Water City. It must be a special emissary from the Celestial Water City. They were all excited and overjoyed. These cultivators living in the sacred world had long known how frightening the ancient sacred religion and ancestor mother religion were. The moment they were controlled, they would be absolutely loyal. Being true god rulers and void gods who had cultivated to their current level, they had relatively high talents. Naturally, they would persevere on and were unwilling to lose themselves. And now, they were finally saved. Phew. While the cultivators were excited, Qing Ruo disappeared and was teleported away. Qing Ruo felt her surroundings change, and she appeared in a dark but slightly dilapidated city. Beside him was a young man dressed in white. Who is he? Qing Ruo was slightly puzzled. The white-robed Shuang stood by the side. With a wave of his hand, he released Lei Chen. The burly Lei Chen was very nervous. He was afraid that Elder Dong Bo of the Great Void Heaven Temple wouldn't be able to break through this place. He was also afraid that if he breached this place, his wife would be implicated in the battle and die. In any case, Lei Chen's heart was filled with unease. But when Dongbo Shuang released him and he saw the green-robed woman in front of him, he felt his soul tremble. Qing Ruo. Lei Chen rushed over excitedly. Chen. Qing Ruo was excited as well. The two of them had been together ever since they were weak. Step by step, they roamed the cosmos together and experienced many dangers. They also had several fortuitous encounters together. They had long treated the other party as the most important existence in their lives, more important than their own. The two of them could not help but rush together and embrace each other. Not far away. White-robed Dongbo Shuang could not help but reveal a grin when he saw this. Even though all the sacred followers in this city had turned into ashes, he had at least saved some people, including this couple. Looking at this couple, Dongbo Shuang could not help but think about his wife in his hometown cosmos. Jing Qiu, how are you? You are in Qinyao. Rest assured. I will bring back the best cultivation materials. Dongbo Shuang thought. Now that he had become an inner hall elder, he was filled with confidence towards the future. This path of cultivation. He would definitely become stronger. Nobody could stop him. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to obtain more valuable treasures and return to meet his wife. Dongbo Shuang flipped his hand and a message token appeared in his hand. He contacted, Ancestor Demon, I am Dongbo Shuang. What's the matter? Ancestor Demon replied. I have destroyed an important base of the ancient saint religion. Dongbo Shuang replied. This is the address. He sent a message over. An important base of the ancient saint world? Is it a base with a sacred leader sculpture or just an ordinary base? Ancestor Demon asked. There were a total of 90 bases in the entire 7-star oceanic sacred world and Dongbo Shuang had destroyed one. Based on what he knew, the base's formation was extremely strong. With Dongbo Shuang's current strength, was he able to destroy the formation? It should be some ordinary small base. I have already obtained the sacred leader sculpture. Dongbo Shuang said. Alright, I will come now. Ancestor Demon no longer had any doubts. The sacred leader sculpture could not be faked. Dongbo Shuang kept the message token. Looking at this silent black city, the east side of the city had already turned white and the sky was starting to brighten. Hong Long Long, a terrifying wolf directly descended into the sky and began to madly control the power of the world in the surroundings. The power of the world surged and gathered, forming a huge whirlpool. The commotion was so great that Lei Chen and Qing Ruo, who were immersed in joy, couldn't help but raise their heads and look into the distance. The whirlpool in the distance was too huge and its might was terrifying. Elder Dongbua. Lei Chen hurriedly pulled his wife Qing Ruo over. He was a little ashamed. Thank you Elder Dongbua for saving me and my wife. The two of us will never forget your kindness. Thank you Elder Dongbua for saving us. Qing Ruo said. Dongbu Shuang smiled at the couple. I was just helping out in passing. Speaking of which, I have to thank Lei Chen for helping me find this place. The ancient sacred religion was extremely cautious. It was extremely difficult to find a base. Fortunately, Lei Chen and his wife had a fortuitous encounter that allowed them to sense the soul. The soul sense was too mysterious, and that sacred emissary Qi Yun did not expect it. That was why they were followed by Dongbu Shuang in the dark. That is. Lei Chen and Qing Ruo looked at the whirlpool in shock, but they did not dare to ask. Dongbu Shuang looked up. The whirlpool rapidly condensed and finally formed a black-robed handsome male. He had blood-colored long hair, and when his eyes swept across, Lei Chen and Qing Ruo felt their souls trembling. They did not dare to raise their heads. The white-robed Dongbu Shuang flew up to welcome him. Ancestor Devil. Dongbu Shuang said. Because they were in the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple, primal chaos giants could send their incarnations down. But the incarnations had to control the heaven and earth energy to condense. That was why the commotion was huge. The process of descending would take some time. This was also the reason why every primal chaos city would have an incarnation of a primal chaos giant stationed there. Only by stationing there could they immediately engage in battle. And to descend from an ultra-long distance, they had to control the heaven and earth energy to condense their incarnations. For a true powerhouse, they would have long since escaped after killing so many people. Thus, being an inner hall elder, Dongbu Shuiying's identity talisman was also a life-saving talisman. During crucial moments, he would first save his life before summoning others. Even Forefather Tianyu and Sword Master could descend with their incarnations. The speed at which their incarnations descended was much faster. This was also why the ancient sacred religion could only hide in the darkness within the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple and did not dare to fight openly. Quite formidable. Ancestor Devil looked at Dongbu Shuang. The edge of his lips curled upwards. You broke through an important base of the ancient sacred religion. It was luck. Dongbu Shuang said. He waved his hand and took out the sacred master sculpture. This is the sacred master sculpture. It is harder to destroy. Dongbu Shuang said. Ancestor Devil looked at the dent on the chest of the sacred master sculpture. He could not help but feel slightly startled. He glanced at Dongbu Shuang. It seemed this old friend of his still had some hidden techniques. Otherwise, how could he forcefully break through a base and even damage the sacred master sculpture? Sacred master sculpture. It would be a huge profit if we were to sell it to the ancient sacred world. What a pity that we can't sell it. Ancestor Devil said, we have to bring it back and destroy it. Its toughness is comparable to a middle-grade void god weapon. It isn't easy to destroy it. This incarnation of mine can't deal with it. Ancestor Devil then saw the husband and wife Lei Chen and Qing Ruo in the Black City below. Let them come over. I want to destroy this city. Ancestor Devil said. Dongbu Shuang nodded. He immediately flew over and asked, Lei Chen, are the two of you returning to the Golden Wing Nation or the Celestial Water City? Because of Lei Chen, he was able to achieve great merits. Therefore, he was willing to take a detour for Lei Chen. Lei Chen and Qing Ruo exchanged glances. Lei Chen did not hesitate and said, Elder Dongbu, let's go to the Celestial Water City. They had already planned to go there. Furthermore, they had experienced many difficulties this time around. A small place like the Golden Wing Nation was ultimately too dangerous. If they had the chance to go to the Celestial Water City, they would definitely go there. Even the fees for the teleportation array was waived. Alright, the two of you shall wait within the Eden Treasure. Dongbu Shuang kept them into the Eden Treasure and flew back to the side of Ancestor Devil. Ancestor Devil looked down and stretched out his right hand. Hong long long, boundless cold air appeared from the void and rapidly froze the entire Black City. Under the control of Ancestor Devil, the Black City started to let out ka-ka-ka sounds. Finally, many parts of the city started to crumble. In just a short moment, the Black City, along with the broken sacred palace hall and even the surrounding land, were completely destroyed and turned into nothingness. A huge crater appeared. "Let's go." Ancestor Devil brought Dongbu Shuang and tore open a time-space tunnel. They entered the time-space tunnel and left rapidly. Chapter 845. Ancient Sacred World. The most primitive ancient sacred world had been shattered after a terrifying war. The remaining ancient sacred world was only about 1% of its original size, yet it was still the biggest of the 5 great sacred worlds. Many beings were living in the ancient sacred world. This was also the most peaceful place. The cultivators did not kill each other. Regardless of whether it was 10,000 years, a million years, or more than 100 million years, there was not a single cultivator who would kill each other in the entire ancient sacred world. Everyone lived peacefully like a family. Even though the sun star was hanging high up in the sky. There were still many black light rays spreading out from the center of the ancient sacred world in all directions, enveloping the entire ancient sacred world. Even the light from the sun star could not suppress this black light. If one said that the sacred master sculpture could control the cultivators, then the black light emitted from the center of the ancient sacred world was not any weaker than that of the sacred master sculpture. Nonetheless, the area it spread out was much wider. Every single cultivator in the ancient sacred world was covered by the black light, and every single cultivator, no matter if they were weak transcendents or powerful primal chaos realm giants, was filled with absolute loyalty to the sacred master. In the outer world, the ancient sacred religion had to be secretive in spreading their religion. But in the ancient sacred world, every single cultivator was a believer of the sacred master. In the ancient sacred world, ripples formed on a quiet lake. A figure flew out from the bottom of the lake. He had violet hair that draped over his shoulders. He was wearing a green robe that was embroidered with a strange pattern. His eyes were filled with deep pain. "My little brother." The violet-haired male muttered softly. He had just received the cry for help from his little brother, "Big brother, save me, save me. Big brother, save me." The cry for help from his little brother made him anxious. He was trying his best to understand the situation and save his little brother. But closely following that, he discovered that his little brother had died. The base where his little brother was at had been destroyed. The eyes of the violet-haired male were filled with unconcealable grief. He only had his little brother as a relative. When they were young, he and his little brother were a pair of proud sons of heaven. But as their realms grew, he gradually left his little brother behind. Currently, he had reached the primal chaos realm and was ranked as a saint in the ancient sacred religion, and his little brother was a void god. His little brother was very strong too. He even went to dangerous places to spread his religion and temper himself. He couldn't stop his younger brother, so he could only give him some protective treasures. But now, his heart was completely cold. "My little brother, no matter who killed you, he will definitely die. He will definitely accompany you in death," the purple-haired man said softly. On the other side of the ancient saint world, in the sky above the majestic black palaces, the power of the heaven and earth was gathering into a vortex. Gradually, a figure was formed. It was none other than that purple-haired man. Swoosh! A figure also flew out from the black palace complex. It was a man in golden armor. "Saint Wang Ming, why are you here?" The golden-armored man asked. "My younger brother is dead. His base has been destroyed. The one who killed him was the inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Dongbu Shuang." The purple-haired man said, "I hope that the sect can send a small team of holy punishment to the 7-star oceanic sacred world to find an opportunity to eliminate Dongbu Shuang. Other than me wanting to take revenge for my younger brother, this Dongbu Shuang has a high innate talent. It would be good if we could eliminate him earlier. Furthermore, since his base has been destroyed, it is time for us to retaliate." The golden-armored man frowned slightly when he heard that. A puny origin birth realm inner hall elder isn't worth worrying about. Even if there is an additional primal chaos realm expert, He isn't worth mentioning to the Sacred Master. What kind of existence was the Sacred Master? He was the strongest expert amongst the final realm existences. With his strength alone, the other 4 great sacred worlds were helpless against him. The purple-haired man said, "Our base has been destroyed. Should we act as if nothing happened? That is the territory of the Great Void Heaven Temple. It isn't suitable for us to fight them head-on. We can only spread our religion in secret. If our base is destroyed by them, we can only blame ourselves for not being careful enough." The golden-armored man said, "In the 7-star oceanic sacred world, the more we fight, the greater our losses will be. After all, they can easily send incarnations over." The purple-haired man understood this point. But did he have to personally kill his way over? He wasn't confident in sending his incarnations over. As for his true body, even if he successfully killed Dongbui Shuang, the incarnations of Forefather Tianyu and the Sword Master would immediately descend. His true body wouldn't be able to escape, and at that time, he would definitely lose his life. Saint Wang Ming. The golden-armored man said, "The internal laws of the religion are very strict. I can't go against them. You can only think of a solution for this matter." The purple-haired man frowned. "For instance, the Myriad World Tavern. It will definitely be able to satisfy you." The golden-armored man smiled. Myriad World Tavern? The purple-haired man continued frowning. The Myriad World Tavern was very mysterious. There were very few who knew of its existence. Usually, only the true higher-ups of the 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void would know of its existence. Dongbui Shuang only knew of the existence of the Myriad World Tavern from the information given by his master, Gu Qi. This was because the entire ancient sacred world was enveloped by the radiance of the Sacred Master. Hence, there wasn't a Myriad World Tavern in the ancient sacred world. On a primal chaos land not far away from the ancient sacred world, there was a flourishing city that specialized in trading. Many cultivators of the ancient sacred world would come here to trade. Hence, there was a Myriad World Tavern here. Who? The purple-haired man walked within the city. Soon, he arrived in front of a simple and unadorned restaurant. The restaurant looked ordinary, but the name on it was very domineering, Myriad World. The interior of the restaurant was empty. There wasn't a single customer. The purple-haired man walked in and swept his gaze around. He saw an old man who was half asleep on a chair at a table in the corner. This old man was also the owner of the restaurant. Myriad World Tavern Master. The purple-haired man said. The old man opened his drowsy eyes and glanced at the purple-haired man. He revealed a smile. "This place of mine is very expensive. Downstairs, 1 table for 1 Origin World Rock. Upstairs, 10 Origin World Rocks." This was a very terrifying price. One had to know that when Ancestor Devil brought Dongbui Shuang from the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world to the 7-star oceanic sacred world, Ancestor Desert merely collected 30 Origin World Rocks. Purchasing an ordinary Primal Chaos flying ship cost 50 Origin World Rocks. Dongbui Shuang's high-graded Void God weapon cost close to 30 Origin World Rocks. Now, just for a meal downstairs, he had to pay an Origin World Rock. Upstairs, 10 Origin World Rocks. Even Primal Chaos giants would not be willing to eat like this. Upstairs. The purple-haired man said. The old man chuckled as he stood up. He slowly walked up the stairs. The purple-haired male did not dare to belittle this old man. There were more than 1,000 Myriad World Taverns in the 5 great sacred worlds and the Primal Chaos Void, and every Myriad World Tavern was filled with this old man. The purple-haired male knew that this old man was one of the final realm existences, Myriad World Tavern Master. He was relatively mysterious. On the 2nd floor of the Myriad World Tavern. Come, have a seat. It has been a long time since I had a customer. Myriad World Tavern Master laughed. He waved his hand and placed a flask of wine and a plate of fruits. The wine was ordinary fruit wine. The fruit was extremely common too. It could even casually eat transcendence. But these two required 10 origin world rocks. The purple-haired male sat down by the table. He looked at the old man who had casually picked up a fruit from the plate and started munching on it. As the old man munched on the fruit, he said, "Say, who do you want to kill?" "Great Void Heaven Temple, Inner Hall Elder, Dongbo Shuang." The purple-haired male said. The old man nodded. "He is a young fellow with great talent. Tian Yu and Sword Master both attach great importance to him. Being an Inner Hall Elder, his survival treasure must be extraordinary. 800 origin world rocks. I can send someone to act, but I dare not guarantee an absolute success. If they fail, we will continue the assassination. If they fail 3 times, the mission will end. The other option is 5,000 origin world rocks, and Dongbo Shuang will definitely die." The old man looked at the purple-haired male. The face of the purple-haired male twitched. Why did he want the sacred punishment team from the religion to act? It was because the price of the Myriad World Tavern was too ruthless. Being a primal chaos existence, he could only take out 2,000 or so origin world rocks at most. Even if he sold all the weapons he used in combat, he would only have about 6,000 origin world rocks. 5,000 origin world rocks? Even Final Realm Cosmos gods would feel heartache, but they could still afford it. As for primal chaos existences, it was sufficient for them to sell all their treasures. He is after all an Inner Hall Elder. He will still die. The old man chuckled. This young fellow has quite a lot of connections behind him. I saw how he destroyed your base, and there should be another superpower not any weaker than the Great Void Heaven Temple behind him. 5,000 origin world rocks isn't high at all. Chapter 846. The violet-haired male hesitated before asking, 800 origin world rocks. How confident are the people you sent? Every time they act, they should have 50% confidence. The old man said, if they fail 3 times consecutively, the mission will end. Also, if he enters closed-door cultivation for a long period or returns to the Great Void Heaven Temple, it is impossible to assassinate him. Then, the violet-haired male nodded. He knew too. Dongbo Shuang had the highest status in the Celestial Water City. Celestial Water Hall Master, who had a higher status than him, was merely an incarnation. Hence, the residence where Dongbo Shuang stayed was also the core of the array of the entire Celestial Water City. If he did not come out, it was impossible for him to kill his way in 800 origin world rocks. I want him dead. The violet-haired male said. Even though he had a deep relationship with his little brother, his own cultivation was very important. He was very resistant to selling his weapon just to gather 5,000 origin world rocks in his heart. After all, for the sake of obtaining the most suitable weapon for himself, he had spent a lot of effort to refine it. Celestial Water City. Within the residence of Dongbo Shuang. The white-robed Dongbo Shuang stood there and waved his hand. A large group of cultivators appeared by the side. These were the cultivators he had saved this time. This is the Celestial Water City. Dongbo Shuang looked at them and said, all of you are safe. Now, all of you have regained your freedom. Many thanks, Senior. This group of cultivators respectfully thanked him. Amongst them were the husband and wife Lei Chen and Qing Rua. Send them out. Dongbo Shuang looked at the green-robed female attendant by the side. Yes. The green-robed female attendant acknowledged. All of you, follow me. Don't wander off. The green-robed female attendant roared. Even though she was a female attendant, she was a void god. She was originally one of the deacons in the Celestial Water City, and this time, she was specially arranged by the Society of Elders. The green-robed female attendant brought them out. Lei Chen and Qing Rua even bowed towards Dongbo Shuang from afar. Dongbo Shuang smiled at them and transmitted his voice to them, go on, if you run into any trouble, you can look for me. Dongbua Shuang naturally remembered Lei Chen's contribution in breaking through the outpost. "Thank you, senior." Lei Chen and Qing Rua were filled with joy. The two of them were reunited and came to Tianshui City. Towards this elder Dongbo, they were filled with gratitude. If it wasn't for Dongbua Shuang, the two of them would have been controlled and forever loyal to the Saint Master. After they left, Dongbua Shuang turned around and entered the chamber. In the quiet room, an incense was lit, causing its fragrance to pervade the air. Dongbua Shuang sat cross-legged on a silver-colored ice silk praying mat. With a wave of his hand, many treasures appeared on the ground. They were the rewards from dealing with the ancient sacred religion. After those sacred emissaries and followers died, Dongbua Shuang would naturally take away their treasures. This was also another important reward other than the reward from the Great Void Heaven Temple for conquering the base of the ancient sacred religion. Sometimes, the spoils of war would even surpass the rewards from the Great Void Heaven Temple. There were many types of treasures. Dongbua Shuang identified them one by one and determined their value. The strongest two peak Unity Realm experts in that outpost and that black-robed sacred emissary left behind the most treasures. Dongbua Shuang revealed a joyous look. The cold male died in battle, leaving behind treasures worth approximately 60 Origin World Rocks. The six-armed girl left behind treasures worth 50 Origin World Rocks. The black-robed sacred emissary had the most treasures. The teleportation talisman and other items seemed to have restrictions that restricted the usage of the black-robed sacred emissary. Even so, his other treasures added up to close to 200 Origin World Rocks. As for the large group of sacred emissaries, they only had slightly more than 50 Origin World Rocks. As for the large number of sacred emissaries, they only had a pitiful amount of treasures. Adding them up, they barely had 20 Origin World Rocks. In total, they were worth approximately 380 Origin World Rocks. This did not include the 1 million contribution points from the Great Void Heaven Temple. Destroying an outpost of the ancient sacred religion is indeed profitable. Dongbua Shuang was rather happy. Although his black gourd was worth more, Gu Qi had restricted it to him, the inheritor of the ancient sacred religion, and it could not be sold. As an Inner Hall Elder's identity token, it was extremely useful for survival. It was even more precious than the black gourd. However, the identity token of an Inner Hall Elder could not be sold. It was something that outsiders could not obtain or use. That was why Dongbua Shuang managed to obtain a huge amount of treasures that could be sold. After killing that black-robed sacred emissary, he obtained close to 200 Origin World Rocks. His status should be somewhat special. Dongbua Shuang guessed. With a wave of his hand. The countless treasures on the ground were all kept. The incense was also instantly extinguished. Dongbua Shuang walked out of the meditation room. There were maids and servants within the residence. "Master." A green-robed maid walked over. Her voice was crisp and respectful. "The 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion has sent an invitation." 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion? Dongbua Shuang was slightly shocked. The 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion was the largest resource trading organization in the 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World. Behind it were the Great Void Heaven Temple, Primogenitor Island, and Jade Light Sacred Territory. One must know that cultivators placed great importance on resources. The Laws and Profound Mysteries system was relatively better. The Ancient Cultivation System, Bloodline Cultivation System, Strongest Warrior System, and many others all desired resources and treasures. Thus, the 3 sacred lands created the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion to specialize in buying and selling resources. Many cultivators were willing to do business at the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion because it was fair. The 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion could be found in many large cities. The Celestial Water City naturally had a 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion. "Invite me." Dongbua Shuang looked at the invitation. 3,000 years later. In the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion, ordinary treasures could be bought and sold directly. Some of the more precious ones, which might even be unique in the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void, could not be sold casually. They would hold a special meeting to inform the experts from all over the world and let them come and bid. The highest bidder would win. The 7-star Oceanic Pavilion could be found in the large cities of the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. In every city, one could participate in the meeting. However, one would only be able to see the shadow of the treasures. As long as one bought it, the treasures would be sent to them. If a large amount of treasures were stored in a large city, it might attract experts to attack and snatch it. Thus, the location of the treasures was unknown. After buying it, the 3 sacred lands would send experts to transfer the treasures. And this time, the meeting organized by the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion was called the Qingkun meeting. Because the most important treasure was a treasure called Qingkun. There was no explanation on it, only that the starting price of this treasure was 1,000 origin world rocks. What treasure? The starting price is so high. Dongbua Shuang was slightly startled. Only primal chaos giants would be willing to buy a treasure of this level. I wonder what use it has. I've never heard of it before. This meeting had sent out invitations a few thousand years in advance. The earlier it was, the more precious it was. And in history, there were cosmos god weapons that were sold before. Invitations were sent out 100 million years in advance. There were even invitations sent to the ancient sacred world. I'll go and take a look when the time comes. Dongbua Shuang was quite interested. Qingkun was a treasure he had never heard of before. He could not afford it. But in this meeting, there would be many other treasures appearing together. There would be many rare items. Chapter 847. The treasure convention of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion was something that Dongbua Shuang was quite interested in. In the following days, he remained within the residence. He would either comprehend and cultivate within the cultivation room, or go to a specialized training hall to test out his techniques. Unhurriedly, he gradually deepened his understanding of the 13 apocalyptic swords and the plate ripple diagram. He even felt that there was hope for him to comprehend the apocalyptic 4th sword. It was primarily because he cultivated for more than 7 billion years in the Great Void Heaven Temple after becoming a void god. These 7 billion years allowed Dongbua Shuang to deepen his foundation. He had even simplified the apocalyptic 3rd sword into the fish dragon kill. This simplification also represented the realm of Dongbua Shuang. Now that he had broken through the encampment of the ancient sacred religion, his mood was great. He was able to improve and had a clearer understanding of the apocalyptic 4th sword. As long as he spent a little more time, he believed he could comprehend it. After the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion convention ends, I'll return to the Great Void Heaven Temple and enter closed-door cultivation in the Palace Hall of Time to comprehend the apocalyptic 4th sword. Dongbua Shuang thought. Dongbua Shuang was cultivating leisurely, yet someone else was suffering. This person called Dongbua Shuang is actually staying within the residence. Within a restaurant, a short and plump male was ordering a table of delicacies. He was drinking and eating at the same time frowning. He glanced through the window of the restaurant to the distance. Even though it was more than 5,000 kilometers away, he could still see that residence clearly. That was the residence of Dongbua Shuang. The short and plump male wore ordinary clothes. There were black patterns on his face, and his pair of dark golden eyes contained a strand of impatience. His aura was reserved. From the surface, he seemed like an ordinary void god. But in reality, he was a primal chaos giant, forefather Black Loath. He was famous when the ancient sacred world was still intact. The majority of final realm existences did not live as long as he did. In terms of strength, he was ranked in the front amongst primal chaos giants. He was stronger by an entire level than Ancestor Devil and Heaven Weeping Sect Master. Furthermore, his personality was slightly more wicked. He did not rely on any cosmos gods. Instead, he lived alone and was famous for his assassination. Of course. Only one of his incarnations had come to the Sky Water City, because if he killed Dongbu Shuang, who was an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple, and in the Sky Water City, one of the 12 primal chaos cities of the Great Void Heaven Temple, the Great Void Heaven Temple would definitely be enraged, and he would not be able to escape. Naturally, he would not come with his true body. The incarnation could conceal and change its appearance and aura. Once the assassination was successful, the incarnation would immediately dissipate. As long as he didn't leave any traces, the Great Void Heaven Temple wouldn't be able to find him. According to the intel, when this Dongbu Shuang first came to Tianshui City, he liked to go to restaurants. Why haven't you come out after destroying a base of the ancient sacred cult? The short and fat man, Forefather Black Loath, was speechless. He had rushed here as fast as he could, hoping that Dongbu Shuang would assassinate him while he was strolling outside. If the assassination was successful, he would be able to leave leisurely. But now that Dongbu Shuang refused to come out, there was nothing he could do. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years had passed. Within the mansion's quiet room, the fragrance of incense permeated the air. Dongbu Shuang was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. His skin was covered with a layer of black energy. This energy was descending from the distant primal chaos void. This was the extremely condensed primal chaos void energy guided by the walker's hidden secret. Due to the compression of the technique, it had turned black. It was extremely cold and destructive. Pooh. Dongbu Shuang opened his mouth and spat out a rainbow-colored light. The rainbow-colored light gradually dissipated in the quiet room. This rainbow-colored light was the portion of the primal chaos void energy that could not be absorbed. I didn't expect that I would be able to improve my walker's hidden secret in these 3,000 years. Dongbu Shuang revealed a look of joy. Although his other aspects were improving slowly, there wasn't any obvious improvement. However, his walker's hidden secret had reached the 29th level. And there's still half a month before the grand meeting. Dongbu Shuang was in a good mood. After breaking through, he continued to comprehend the walker's hidden secret. He wanted to reach the 31st level as soon as possible. When that day came, he would be considered to have reached the unity realm of the Voidwalker system. Be it his body, his termination energy, or his control over the void, they would all experience a qualitative change. Half a moon flashed by. Dongbu Shuang stood up. Rumble. The door of the quiet room opened. I hope this grand meeting will give me a pleasant surprise. Dongbu Shuang was filled with anticipation. This was his first time participating in the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion's grand meeting. South, walking to the courtyard of the mansion, Dongbu Shuang vanished into thin air. He immediately executed the void evasion and rushed towards the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion. After all, the mansion was 300,000 miles away from the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion. He wasn't in the mood to fly slowly. Forefather Black Loath, who had bought a small courtyard, was constantly releasing his secret technique. He was carefully scouting the surroundings of Dongbu Shuaying's mansion. Because Dongbu Shuaying's mansion was an important core of the array of the entire Celestial Water City, he did not dare to use his secret technique to scout inside the mansion. He only dared to use it outside the mansion. Forefather Black Loath had long prepared to wait for 3,000 years. Being a primal chaos realm giant, 100 million years was nothing to him. Suddenly, Forefather Black Loath opened his eyes. His dark golden eyes were filled with shock. Because the range of his secret technique, he felt a void penetration. With a schwa, he had traversed 150,000 miles and arrived at the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion. It was too fast. Currently, even if Dongbu Shuang teleported, he could only teleport more than 150,000 miles under the law suppression of the sacred world. A mere 300,000 miles was merely an instant to him. Just when Forefather Black Loath discovered Dongbu Shuang had already arrived at the 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion. 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion? Forefather Black Loath was furious. Can't you fly slowly? Can't you come out for a stroll and have a walk? After being cooped up for 3,000 years, why don't you come out and relax? Forefather Black Loth was slightly frustrated. But he understood that it was normal for powerful cultivators to enter closed-door cultivation for 10 billion years. Why would they feel like relaxing after just 3,000 years? Forefather Black Loth only felt sullen. He had just discovered Dongbu Shuang when Dongbu Shuang entered the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Damn it! Forefather Black Loth muttered. The 7-star Oceanic Pavilion is jointly created by the 3 great holy grounds of the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. It specializes in selling treasures. The security of this place is so tight that it far exceeds that of Dongbu Shuaying's mansion. The moment I infiltrate it, I will definitely be discovered. It is impossible for me to assassinate him within the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Wait. Wait for him to come out. Forefather Black Loth said to himself, this time, I have to be prepared. Even if he directly pierces through the void from the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, I will immediately intercept him. He decided to maintain the highest level of vigilance. The moment he discovered Dongbu Shuang coming out, he would immediately intercept him. Because of Dongbu Shuaying's void-piercing speed, it only took an instant to travel from the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion to the mansion. The time was too short and he could not afford to be distracted. This highest level of vigilance was also very tiring. However, Forefather Black Loth was still willing to do it for a short 1 or 2 days. After all, the moment he succeeded, he would be rewarded with 560 Origin World Rocks. South. At the entrance of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, a white-robed youth appeared out of nowhere. It was Dongbu Shuang. Elder Dongbu. In just a breath's time, the manager of the Heavenly Water City's 7-star Oceanic Pavilion personally came to welcome him with a warm expression. Chapter 848. The manager was wearing a golden robe. He chuckled and said, I am called Yu Qi. I am the pavilion master of this 7-star Oceanic Pavilion in the Celestial Water City. Even though I am the pavilion master, I am still a disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Oh? Dongbu Shuang nodded slightly. It was not strange since the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion was backed by the Great Void Heaven Temple, Primogenitor Island, and Jade Light Sacred Territory. The important members would most likely be sent by the 3 holy grounds. Every big city would have a 7-star Oceanic Pavilion with a pavilion master. Elder Dongbu, follow me. Pavilion Master Yu Qi was very passionate. As he led the way, he said, only 15 people from our Celestial Water City branch will be participating in this convention. By then, we will be competing with the other pavilions for treasures. The competition will be much more intense. I heard that quite a few primal chaos experts have even rushed over from other places like the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world. Dongbu Shuang was slightly curious. It was slightly interesting for different pavilions to compete for treasures at the same time. Please. Pavilion Master Yu Qi led Dongbu Shuang into a house. There was already a female attendant waiting in the house. She was even carrying a flask of wine. There was a huge window in the house. Through the window, one could see the high platform in the distance. This time, the treasure gathering is called the Qingkun Gathering because the most precious treasure is a mystical item called Qingkun. Actually, I have never heard of it before. It's said that many primal chaos experts from other sacred worlds have rushed over for it. Pavilion Master Yu Qi said, oh right, before this, I still need to see what treasures Elder Dongbu has and determine the limit of what Elder Dongbu can bid. And then Dongbu Shuang waved his hand. Hua! A large number of treasures filled a small half of the house. Dongbu Shuang was planning to sell these items. So many. Pavilion Master Yu Qi was slightly startled. He immediately began to analyze them carefully. As a pavilion master, identifying treasures was the most basic. His speed was even faster than Dongbu Shuang. These treasures can be exchanged for 385 Origin World Rocks. Pavilion Master Yuchi smiled and said, with so many Origin World Rocks, it should be enough to buy some rare treasures. Time flew by. Pavilion Master Yuchi chatted with Dongbo Shuang. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. Finally, a purple-robed woman appeared on the stage outside the window. The purple-robed woman had an extraordinary bearing. She smiled as she looked around and said, I, Mingyu, am one of the 9 elders of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Today, I will be the host of this Chengkun Grand Assembly. Dongbo Shuang was shocked. Bright You Planet Lord? A primal chaos existence from the Jade Light Sacred Territory. Pavilion Master Yuchi immediately said, the Bright You Star Lord is just a projection. She must be in a big city in the Jade Light Holy Land, in the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Let's start right away. The violet-robed woman was clearly very familiar with this. She extended her hand, causing a red flower to appear in her palm. Every single petal was bright and glistening. There were even water droplets condensing on the surface. She waved her hand, causing this red flower to transform into a red-armored woman. This is a Unity Realm puppet life form that has the strength to get through the 3rd level of Star Pagoda. The violet-robed woman chuckled, the starting price is 100 Origin World Rocks, 110 Origin World Rocks. 111 Origin World Rocks. One could see voices coming from different directions outside the window. Pavilion Master Yuchi immediately explained from the side, these voices are all from the various pavilions participating in the bidding. Elder Dongbua, when you bid, your voice will resound in the various pavilions. Dongbua Shuang watched from the side. He was not interested in this Unity Realm puppet life form. He did not have many treasures, and he had to use them when he needed them. The bidding in this grand assembly was also very cautious. The later it was, the higher the price would be by Origin World Rocks. Sometimes, they would even hesitate for a long time, and only bid when the violet-robed woman was about to announce the end of the auction. 36 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang stood by the window and said. His voice resounded around the high platform. The violet-robed woman on the high platform was currently holding onto a jade vase. She was smiling as she looked around. 37 Origin World Rocks, 38 Origin World Rocks. The price kept rising. Very soon, Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Within the jade vase was a refined pellet that had the effect of assisting in cultivation. Dongbua Shuang treated such treasures with great importance. He could buy it for his wife and son, or he could use it himself. But he had to see if the price was suitable. If the price was too high, it would not be worth it. Because he was still young, and there was still a long time before this epoch in his hometown Cosmos. As he became stronger, he would be able to obtain better cultivation treasures. But now, he was not in a rush. The lowest price among these treasures exceeded 30 Origin World Rocks, and some even exceeded several hundred Origin World Rocks. But the final treasure, Chengkun, had yet to appear. Hence, the starting price was 1,000 Origin World Rocks. According to these bidding patterns, Dongbua Shuang estimated that the final price would be doubled if he succeeded. Finally, it was the 22nd treasure's turn. The violet-robed woman on the high platform extended her right hand, causing a black book to appear on her palm. This book seemed to be forged from pieces of black metal, and was even faintly emitting a dark aura. This is yet another great treasure. The violet-robed woman said. The moment Dongbua Shuang heard it, he knew that these great treasures were usually worth several hundred Origin World Rocks. In the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world, there was once an outstanding ancient cultivator called Dark World Master. The violet-robed woman said, I believe many cultivators here should know of him. Dongbua Shuang was startled. New? Never heard of him before. He might be at the Unity Realm, but he had gotten through the 6th level of Star Pagoda. The violet-robed woman said, he is strong enough to fight against primal chaos experts. Dongbua Shuang was startled. got through the 6th level of Star Pagoda. In this current era, none of the inner hall elders of the Great Void Heaven Temple could get through the 6th level. The absolute art he created is called Dark World. The violet-robed girl looked at the black book in her hands. She sighed, it's a pity that he died at the Unity Realm. Otherwise, with his potential, the moment he reached the Primal Chaos Realm, he would be much stronger than me. He might even be able to get through the 8th level of Star Pagoda. The 9th floor isn't completely hopeless. As an ancient cultivator, he was most proficient in controlling illusory worlds. Illusory worlds are originally good at trapping and confusing enemies, but their offensive capabilities are extremely weak. But he blazed a new path. He created a world purely to nurture killer moves. A world is to give birth to killer moves. Before the enemy even got close to him, the world's power gathered into a killer move. When the killer move descends, its power is extremely terrifying. The purple-clothed woman was still describing. After all, this was an ultimate art. If they wanted cultivators to buy it, they had to understand what kind of ultimate art it was and what aspects it was powerful in. Only after they understood it in detail would they be able to judge whether it was suitable for them or not. Dongbo Shuang, on the other hand, felt his mind rumbling. It was as if a bolt of lightning had torn through the darkness and illuminated the darkness. Constructing a world purely to nurture a killer move? An entire world, just for a killer move? Gathering all the world's energy into a killer move? The mind of Dongbo Shuang began flashing with inspiration. Sometimes, what he lacked was an idea. The direction of creating the Dark World absolute art made Dongbo Shuang discover with shock that he specialized in the Tao of Mirage. He did not even have a Cosmos-ranked absolute art in the Tao of Mirage, yet he was still the first to step into the Void God realm. But the Tao of Mirage was indeed not suited for combat. This made Dongbo Shuang unable to make any headway. But now, he saw the direction. Killing move. Constructing a world for the sake of a killing move. Dongbo Shuang even had many ideas in his mind. But he understood that it was extremely difficult to create an absolute art based on the ideas, experiment, ponder, and modify them. It was even harder to create a horrifying absolute art. His Wind Ripple Path and Fish Dragon Kill had Cosmos-ranked absolute arts as the foundation. Otherwise, it would take too much time for him to create another absolute art. I must get this absolute art. Dongbo Shuang immediately made his decision. There is only one original copy of this Dark World, and it is the only copy. The starting price is 150 Origin World Rocks. The purple-clothed woman said. The surroundings became quiet. Nobody called out a price. 151 Origin World Rocks. Dongbo Shuang stood by the window. He endured for a while before shouting out. His voice reverberated around the high platform and within every single pavilion in the entire 7-star oceanic sacred world. Chapter 849. Within the house, Pavilion Master Yuchi stood by the side and chuckled. Elder Dongbo wishes to have the sole copy of this absolute art? For such an absolute art, cultivators who desperately want it will bid a high price. But those who do not wish to learn this absolute art are not willing to bid. From the looks of it, there shouldn't be many who bid this time. I believe the price won't be too high. Dongbo Shuang nodded. He was extremely talented in the Mirage. He had read through many books in the Myriad Elephant Palace of the Great Void Heaven Temple, but there weren't many who had reached a high level in cultivation. There were only 2 final realm existences, including the fallen primogenitor of the laws and profound mysteries lineage, Ancestor Tsang. There weren't many at the Primal Chaos realm either. Hence, there were very few books of a high level. Mirage-related books were even rarer, and they were lacking in offensive techniques. Only Dark World had allowed Dongbo Shuang to see the light of hope. Without a Cosmos-ranked absolute art, the Tao of Mirage was much faster than the Tao of Ripple and Tao of Slaughter. If there was a suitable absolute art for him to research, he would be able to improve even faster. Mirage, this was a true meaning he comprehended when he was a transcendent, and it was also the first Dao he opened. If he encountered a suitable absolute art, he would naturally not miss it. I hope there won't be any competitors. Dongbua Shuang hoped in his heart. If he could spend one less Origin World Rock, it would be one less. 152 Origin World Rocks. A slightly cold voice resounded from the other side of the high platform. Dongbua Shuang frowned. There was really a competitor. 153 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang announced. 200 Origin World Rocks. That cold and stern voice said directly. Dongbua Shuang felt a knot in his heart. Not good. According to his previous experience of watching the bids, the increase in bids was usually very small. Unless one truly wanted it and wanted to suppress his opponent, only then would he raise the bid by a huge margin. 201 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang continued. 250 Origin World Rocks. It was still that cold voice. Brother Quan Miao, you are determined to get it. 251, an aged voice rang out. Dongbua Shuang was shocked. Quan Miao. This was a primal chaos giant who lived in seclusion within the primal chaos void. He was called Forefather Quan Miao, and he specialized in the illusory realm. He is just a primal chaos giant, yet he wants the original copy of this absolute art so badly. This is an absolute art created by a Unity Realm expert. To old ancestor Quan Miao, its level is slightly too low. Dongbua Shuang frowned. To Forefather Quan Miao, this absolute art would definitely not be able to increase his strength. After all, cultivating it to grand perfection would only allow him to get through the 6th level of Star Pagoda. It would at most give Forefather Quan Miao some inspiration, or maybe he would create a new technique himself. However, it was very difficult to activate one's body and transmit a new move. 300 Origin World Rocks. The cold voice continued. 301 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang said calmly. I wonder which friend wants to compete with me. The cold voice said, 350 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang felt slightly anxious. He was not afraid of Forefather Quan Miao since he was a member of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Why would he be afraid of an idle primal chaos existence? But he had too few treasures. Pavilion Master Yuchi had already set a price for these treasures that could be sold, and he could buy them for 385 Origin World Rocks. And now, that Forefather Quan Miao had already reported the price of 350 Origin World Rocks. What would he do if it exceeded his limit? Pavilion Master Yuchi, I have a matter to trouble you. Dongbua Shuang said to Pavilion Master Yuchi by the side, can you contact that Forefather Quan Miao? I am willing to pay 150 Origin World Rocks to learn this dark world once. After learning it, the original copy will belong to him, and I will not compete with him. You can't. Pavilion Master Yuchi shook his head. The rules of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion is that the highest bidder wins. We will definitely not allow you to negotiate. Even if you were to openly negotiate with Forefather Quan Miao in front of the window, the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion will isolate your voice. Dongbua Shuang frowned. That was true, the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion was all for the sake of selling for the highest price. After Forefather Quan Miao reported the price of 350 Origin World Rocks, the other old voice no longer bid. He was purely teasing Forefather Quan Miao and was not willing to end up in his own hands. 351 Origin World Rocks. Dongbua Shuang continued. Forefather Quan Miao went silent for a moment. The violet-robed girl had already spoken. 351 Origin World Rocks. Fellow gentlemen, there are no more Origin World Rocks. This absolute art originally belonged to 400 Origin World Rocks. Forefather Quan Miao spoke again. Dongbua Shuaying's expression changed. 400 Origin World Rocks, what should he do? Elder Dongbua, you are unable to bid anymore. By the side, Pavilion Master Yuchi reminded, your limit is 385 Origin World Rocks, unless you take out more treasures. Dongbua Shuang frowned. Even though he still had other treasures, most of them could not be sold. Things that could be sold were like his weapons. There was also the supplementary spiritual fruit. In his heart, this supplementary spiritual fruit was not something that he could not sell. After all, the stronger he was, the easier it would be for him to obtain cultivation treasures that were better than the supplementary spiritual fruit. Moreover, with the sole copy of the absolute art in his hands, he could sell it off in the future. Can I temporarily owe some origin world rocks? Dongbua Shuang asked. He was an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. With such an identity, how could he owe some origin world rocks? Pavilion Master Yuchi could tell that this elder Dongbua really wanted it. However, he still shook his head. The rules cannot be violated. Unless Elder Dongbua has treasures as collateral. Only then are we willing to lend the origin world rocks to Elder Dongbua. The items used as collateral will be temporarily detained. Dongbua Shuang hurriedly said, I have 2 million merit points. Can I use them as collateral? The Great Void Heaven Temple's merit points can naturally be used as collateral. Pavilion Master Yuchi said. After all, merit points could be used to exchange for various treasures in the Great Void Heaven Temple. However, with 2 million merit points as collateral, I can only borrow 160 origin world rocks at most. Alright. Dongbua Shuang nodded. I've already checked. Elder Dongbua indeed has 2 million merit points. You can continue bidding now. Pavilion Master Yuchi said 401 origin world rocks. Dongbua Shuang continued to bid calmly. This time, it was Forefather Quan Miao's turn to be angry. Forefather Quan Miao sat there with a gloomy expression. He lifted the wine cup on the table in front of him and took a sip. Who is fighting with me? Every time I bid, he would have won more than me. I have been searching for this dark world as it might be helpful to my cultivation. But now, a competitor has appeared. When the price reached this stage, he began to hesitate. After all, Primal Chaos Realm Giants did not have many origin world rocks. Furthermore, this was an absolute art created by a Unity Realm expert. To a Primal Chaos Realm expert, its value was ultimately limited. It could only open up a new direction for him. Or it might not be of any help in the end. 500 origin world rocks. Forefather Quan Miao directly said coldly. His cold voice transmitted out through the window. Similarly, it resounded in the distant celestial water city's 7-star oceanic pavilion. It is about time. Forefather Quan Miao had made his decision in his heart. This is the highest price I can offer for the dark world. Any higher and it will belong to him. And then, with such a high price, the other party should feel heartache. He was waiting. Waiting for the price, 501 origin world rocks. That voice was still calm. It seemed that no matter how much Forefather Quan Miao bid, that voice would always increase by 1. Forefather Quan Miao snorted angrily. His right hand held onto the wine cup before instantly crushing it into powder. Very soon, as the violet-robed girl continued to remind him, there were no new bids. Finally, the violet-robed girl announced, 501 origin world rocks for the dark world. Now, let's begin the next treasure. Forefather Quan Miao looked at the pavilion master who was specially accompanying him. He instructed, the contest for the original copy of the dark world has ended. Your 7-star oceanic pavilion will help me contact that person who obtained the dark world. Tell him that I am willing to fork out 150 origin world rocks to learn this dark world once. The original copy will still belong to him. Chapter 850. Over at the Celestial Water City. Dongbua Shuang was truly nervous. This was the absolute art that he felt was most suitable for his Tao of Mirage system. Being able to get through the 6th level of Star Pagoda at the Unity Realm meant that this absolute art was extremely formidable. It was close to a Cosmos-ranked absolute art at the same level. For instance, none of the inner hall elders of the Great Void Heaven Temple could get through the 6th level even though they had Cosmos-ranked absolute arts. Naturally, this was because of their comprehension abilities. Like the less than 13 apocalyptic swords, theoretically speaking, it was possible to comprehend the 6th sword at the Unity Realm. The moment one comprehended the 6th sword, he would be confident of getting through the 6th level of Star Pagoda. It's a pity that the current batch of Inner Hall Elders could not do it. I can't go any higher. I can't go any higher. Shuang was really nervous because his previous treasures were only worth 385 Origin World Rocks, and his contribution points were only worth 160 Origin World Rocks. Even though he still had some scattered items, he was close to his limit. When the violet-robed girl finally announced, Dongbua Shuang revealed a look of joy. "Congratulations, Elder Dongbua." Pavilion Master Yuchi said. Dongbua Shuang nodded. "It's a pity that the price is slightly high. Elder Dongbua, after you learn it, you can sell the original copy of the Dark World." Pavilion Master Yuchi said, "You can even ask the Great Void Heaven Temple what price they are willing to pay for it. But I reckon it won't be much higher than the starting price." Dongbua Shuang nodded. "That's right. The starting price was 150 Origin World Rocks. He and that forefather Quan Miao fought for it all the way to 501 Origin World Rocks. This price was really high. If not for destroying the base of the ancient sacred religion, he would not be qualified to bid such a high price. Elder Dongbua, I have a piece of good news." Pavilion Master Yuchi suddenly revealed a look of joy. He said, "Didn't you find it expensive? Forefather Quan Miao has just contacted you through my 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. He is willing to pay 150 Origin World Rocks just to learn it once. The original copy will still belong to you. Old Ancestor Quan Miao." Dongbua Shuang had already guessed that the other party would contact him, just like how he had wanted to contact him previously. However, communication was prohibited during the treasure auction. They could only contact each other after the auction had ended. "Tell him, 300 Origin World Rocks." Dongbua Shuang said. 300 for a single lesson? Pavilion Master Yuchi was speechless. "Just pass the message to them," Dongbua Shuang said. "All right." Pavilion Master Yuchi nodded. Dongbua Shuang watched silently as Mingyu Star Lord continued to sell the other treasures on the high platform. The price of 300 Origin World Stones he proposed was based on a reason. Since the other party had reached the price of 500 crystals during the auction, and according to his estimations, the other party was only trying to move him. In that case, learning it once would be enough, and it wouldn't be that important to him in the first place. Originally, it had value, but its value was limited. It was estimated to be around 200 to 300 Origin World Stones. 300 Origin World Stones for each learning session. This should be the limit of what the other party could afford. It might be slightly higher, but it's not worth it to ask for a sky-high price. He had to cherish every single Origin World Stone he had. Forefather Quan Miao has returned. Pavilion Master Yuchi looked at Dongbua Shuang. He said it's too high. He said the highest he can offer is 220 Origin World Stones. Tell him that I want to buy it at a higher price. The lowest I can offer is 280 Origin World Stones. Dongbua Shuang said. Both parties might be saying that the lowest was the highest, yet they were still bargaining. One party was a primal Chaos Realm giant, and the other party was an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. They were competing for the Origin World Stones. Because everyone was clear. Everything was for the sake of cultivation, and it was fine for both parties to agree on a price. To Dongbua Shuang, there weren't many who were willing to pay a high price for the Dark World. It seemed that only he and forefather Quan Miao were competing in this auction. Secondly, the starting price was even lower. Hence, even though it was just learning it once, it was rare to meet someone who was willing to pay a high price. Since he met someone, the price would naturally not be low. Both parties competed until the end. 235 Origin World Stones. Forefather Quan Miao learned it once. The entire convention lasted for more than half a day. The final treasure, Ching Kun, was a unique leather skirt that seemed to belong to some life form. The violet-robed girl introduced it vaguely, but the bids were crazy. The final price reached a horrifying 3,982 Origin World Stones. This price made Dongbu Shuang speechless. It seems to be the outer skin of some life form. Dongbu Shuang muttered, for it to be sold at such a high price, could it be the outer skin of a cosmos god? Even though he was shocked, he was still in a good mood as he followed Pavilion Master Yu Qi to the hidden underground palace hall of this branch of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. At the center of the underground palace hall, there was an array about 100 meters in diameter. Pavilion Master Yu Qi stood side by side with Dongbu Shuang. He pointed to the array. This array is used to mark the precise location. Very soon, an expert from the other side will directly teleport the original copy of the Dark World over. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Ultra-long distance teleportation. Teleporting living beings was the hardest, but teleporting items was much easier. Just like in the past when he and Ancestor Devil were teleported from the Eastern Unicorn's Sacred World to the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World by Ancestor Desert. Ancestor Desert only asked if Ancestor Devil brought any other subordinates along, and did not ask what items were brought along. Precisely because items were dead, and teleportation was easy. According to the original agreement between you and Forefather Quan Miao, you have already let Forefather Quan Miao learn the Dark World. He has also paid 235 Origin World Stones. You still have to pay 266 Origin World Stones. Pavilion Master Yu Qi said. Sell all these treasures. Dongbu Shuang said before passing a storage wristband to Pavilion Master Yu Qi. Pavilion Master Yu Qi checked it. All right. In a while, I will give you 119 Origin World Stones, Elder Dongbu. Wang. A distorted spatial passage appeared in front of him. A black book flew out from the passage. It gradually landed within the array, and the passage dissipated. Dongbu Shuaying's eyes brightened. He immediately went forward and took this book. This black metal forged book had 3 distorted words on its surface. It was the meaning of Dark World, yet it naturally contained an illusory realm. The entire book was even covered in black fog, and those with weaker souls would likely sink into this book. He slowly flipped open the book. Wang. The words on the book immediately turned into words that flew towards Dongbu Shuang. They continuously tunneled into the mind of Dongbu Shuang. Dark World. This was an incomplete absolute art. That outstanding Unity Realm expert, Dark World Master, had clearly recorded in the beginning of this book that he wanted to create 3 great killing moves for the Dark World. The first move could allow him to get through the 5th level of Star Pagoda, the second move could allow him to get through the 6th level, and the third move could allow him to get through the 7th level. Given the arrogance of Dark World Master, he wanted to reach the historical limit of the Unity Realm, to get through the 7th level at the Unity Realm. And the first 2 moves were completed in the book, yet the third move was not recorded. That year, he had fallen before he could create a stronger move. The first style of the Dark World, Dark Bubble, would create a world that could envelop the enemy before rapidly shrinking. This huge world would shrink to the limit and completely envelop the enemy, just like a bubble trapping the enemy. But this bubble contained the energy of an entire world. It was a world that was specially constructed for the purpose of explosion. With a thought, the world would explode. The entire world would be destroyed, and all living beings within the world would be exterminated. Its power was terrifying. The second style of the Dark World, Sky Punishment Edge, used this world as its foundation to form this blade. This was the Sky Punishment Edge. It would descend from the illusory realm and was extremely sudden. Most enemies would not be able to get close to it and would be killed in a single blade. Dark World Master just stood at his original position, causing many Sky Punishment Edges to descend from the void. It attacked in all directions. With this move, he became famous across the 5 great sacred worlds, allowing him to fight against primal chaos realm giants at the Unity realm. It's a pity that he died before he could create the 3rd style. Chapter 851. Xueying held onto the black book in his hand. He was completely immersed in this unfathomable illusory realm absolute art created by Dark World Master. Constructing an enormous world just for the sake of a single killing technique was a unique way of thinking. Furthermore, this Dark World Master was absolutely a genius who could transcend the heavens. In the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void, there were many outstanding geniuses amongst the countless life forms. There were even Unity realm experts who could get through the 7th level Star Pagoda. There were even those like Swordmaster who directly stepped into the final realm after entering closed-door cultivation in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Dongbua Xueying was filled with admiration towards these geniuses. Dark World. Dongbua Xueying received the detailed information of this absolute art in his mind. He could not help but be captivated by it. In terms of creating a world or even altering it, the easiest way was undoubtedly the illusory realm. Because it was an illusory realm, it was easy to change it. Dongbua Xueying's Tao of Mirage was the same. It was hard to change the real world, but he could change the mirage into anything he wanted. First, he would construct the mirage world. After that, he would turn the mirage into reality. After all, the mirage encompassed the real world. To Dongbua Xueying, it was an easy task. He could already turn part of the mirage into reality when he was at the opening realm, much less now. First, he would construct a perfect killing technique world in the mirage before turning it into reality. The descent of the killing technique. Dark bubble. Many ideas flashed in the mind of Dongbua Xueying. 3 Daos. He had the highest talent in the Tao of Mirage. At this moment, comprehending this absolute art from the dark world gave him all sorts of enlightenment. Pavilion Master Yuqi. Dongbua Xueying abruptly opened his eyes and looked at Pavilion Master Yuqi. Elder Dongbua. Pavilion Master Yuqi added. He saw how this elder Dongbo was engrossed in the absolute art inheritance, which made him feel puzzled. After all, this was an absolute art written by a genius expert at the Unity realm, and the amount of information it contained would not be huge. It should be very fast for him to accept the inheritance. Why was Elder Dongbua immersed in it for so long? But he didn't dare to disturb him. Quickly bring me to the best cultivation room in your 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Dongbua Xueying instructed. Remember, it's the best. All right. Pavilion Master Yuqi's eyes lit up. Please follow me. Swoosh. Although the quiet room in his mansion was not bad, it was still far from the best quiet room in the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, which specialized in external transactions. An origin-grade cultivation room. Pavilion Master Yuqi introduced as he walked, this is the best cultivation room in our 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. The room itself is built with chia incense wood, and the chia incense wood will continuously release a natural fragrance, which is extremely beneficial to cultivation. A complete chia incense wood will release a fragrance after 300 million years, and it will no longer have a fragrance. That's why time normally stops in this source-grade training room. Pavilion Master Yuqi said, when cultivators enter, time will return to normal. The price of cultivating inside is 100 million years requires 1,000 origin world rocks, which is equivalent to 1 origin world rock every 100,000 years. I know. Dongbua Xueying nodded. He had never thought of cultivating here for a long time. If he wanted to cultivate for a long time, he would definitely have to return to the Palace of Time. He could not waste his time wantonly. What he wanted was a short period of cultivation. Because this was the first time he saw that dark world, large amounts of inspiration appeared. This was the best time for him to enter closed-door cultivation. Furthermore, he had to choose the best cultivation room to convert these inspiration into insights and strength. A cultivation room that cost one origin world rock every 100,000 years was extravagant, but Dongbush Shuang was willing to do so. Can we practice in the cultivation room? Dongbush Shuang asked. As long as the attack on the wooden walls of the cultivation room does not surpass the primal chaos realm, it will be fine. Pavilion Master Yuqi said, the array of this cultivation room is set up by someone at the level of Hall Master. And then, within the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, by the side of a lake, there was a wooden cultivation room. It's just that the flow of time here was still. Please. Pavilion Master Yuqi said. Dongbush Shuang walked forward and pushed open the wooden door. Instantly, the flow of time in the cultivation room returned to normal. After Dongbush Shuang entered, the wooden door automatically closed. An extremely faint fragrance permeated the cultivation room. However, this fragrance caused Dongbush Shuaying's mind to feel extremely comfortable. He immediately sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate the dark world without wasting any time. Hua, an illusory world even appeared in the air of the cultivation room. This world was completely dark, and countless mysterious runes could be faintly seen circulating within it. The entire world was constantly changing. Days passed one after another. In a restaurant not far away from the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, the short and fat man, Forefather Black Loath, who had been waiting here for a long time, suddenly had a change in expression. Why isn't he coming out? According to what I know, the treasure meet this time has already ended. It has already been half a month. Forefather Black Loath was truly anxious. Because Dongbush Shuaying's void penetration was extremely fast, he only needed a blink of an eye to travel from the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion to his residence. Hence, he had to maintain the highest level of vigilance so that he could intercept Dongbush Shuang the moment he entered the void. But in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed since he maintained the highest level of vigilance. Forefather Black Loath did not dare to relax at all during this half a month. He was after all a primal chaos realm giant that was born during the earliest period of the ancient sacred world. Naturally, he had a stomach full of anger after guarding this identity for so long. Time to return. Forefather Black Loath no longer stayed in the restaurant. He returned to the small courtyard that he bought. He no longer had the mood to maintain the highest level of vigilance. He merely separated a strand of consciousness to envelop the outer perimeter of the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion and Dongbush Shuaying's residence. I don't believe that he won't come out for a stroll forever. Forefather Black Loath had already decided to wait. He would act only when Dongbush Shuaying was strolling outside. Time. He could afford to wait. Dongbush Shuaying's passion in the Tao of Mirage had indeed been ignited by the dark world. If one said that cultivating the Tao of Slaughter and the Tao of Ripple was taxing, then cultivating the Tao of Mirage gave him a feeling of contentment. Within the Chia Incense Wood cultivation room, Dongbush Shuang was seated cross-legged. A translucent dark world appeared around him. It was already emitting a horrifying aura. Many inscriptions were revolving within this dark world. Just a little more. Dongbush Shuang opened his eyes. He frowned. He had cultivated for 70,000 years within the cultivation room. He had even comprehended a portion of the first style of dark world, the dark bubble. But as he comprehended more, he realized where the problem lay. That was, for the dark bubble to be formed, the dark world that was formed had to be a perfect entity. To achieve an absolutely perfect entity, then the Mirage law system would no longer be suitable to use the Tao of Mirage to govern the other laws. He had to improve further. He had to evolve the Mirage law system into the Mirage origin. Only when his entire Tao of Mirage had reached the Mirage origin level would his control over the Mirage reach perfection. Only then would he be able to execute the dark bubble. Thus, reaching the Unity realm in the Tao of Mirage was a prerequisite for him to execute the first style of Dark World. And during these 70,000 years of cultivating the Dark World, the various comprehensions he gained had brought him closer and closer to the Mirage origin. He also wanted to integrate the entire system into one. He wanted to transform it into the Mirage origin. but he always felt that he was lacking something. This point made Dongbush Shuang rather vexed. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't take that step. The final bottleneck. Dongbush Shuang gritted his teeth. I'll risk it. Dongbush Shuang flipped his hand, and a crystal box appeared. The crystal box was translucent, and one could see a dark purple fruit within. It was the most precious item that could assist in cultivation, supplementary spiritual fruit. Originally, he thought that the Voidwalker system would be the first to reach the Unity realm. However, due to a fortuitous encounter with the Dark World Absolute Art, and the first style of the Dark World, the Dark Bubble, required the Mirage Origin realm to reach the Unity realm. Thus, he naturally got closer and closer to the Unity realm, and now, he had reached the final bottleneck. Within it were the elements of the Dark World. Cultivating an absolute art was indeed helpful in raising one's strength. He also had his own talent in the Tao of Mirage. It was also because of the Chia Incense Wood cultivation room. This was the best cultivation room he had ever cultivated in. Now that he had reached the bottleneck, he might be stuck for a long time if he wanted to break through. The supplementary spiritual fruit, I'll just use it. Dongbush Shuang looked at the fruit in the crystal box. The supplementary spiritual fruit was very precious. Usually, it would be publicly bestowed to newly advanced golden-robed disciples. However, if the upper echelons of the Great Void Heaven Temple really wanted it, they still had the qualifications to obtain it. For example, the 2 Palace Masters, the Hall Masters, and the Inner Hall Elders. After becoming an Inner Hall Elder, Dongbush Shuang could casually flip through the universe-level absolute arts. Many rare items could be exchanged with contribution points. The range of treasures that a golden-robed disciple could exchange for was limited. The Inner Hall Elders could exchange for the supplementary spiritual fruit. They had a lifetime limit of 3, and each one cost 600,000 contribution points. In fact, they could even exchange for items that were better than the supplementary spiritual fruit. However, the price was much higher as well. It was precisely because of this that Dongbush Shuang decided to use the supplementary spiritual fruit. Moreover, the stronger he was, the more treasures he had. Naturally, it would be easier for him to obtain items that were better than the supplementary spiritual fruit. Let's have a taste first and feel the effects. Just this fruit alone is worth about 50 Origin World rocks. Dongbush Shuang opened the crystal box and took out the dark purple fruit. He took a bite and his eyes lit up. Kacha, he finished the entire fruit in a few bites. Today was the first day. Star. Chapter 852. In the Chia Incense Wood cultivation room, Dongbush Shuang, who was sitting with his legs crossed, took the first bite of the supplementary spiritual fruit. He felt a wave of coldness spreading rapidly from his throat to his entire body, even to his soul. It caused his soul to be completely cold. Even some of the doubts he had regarding the Tao of Mirage immediately surfaced in his mind, and he had many ideas on how to break through the bottleneck. This immediately made him overjoyed. He quickly ate the supplementary spiritual fruit and focused on comprehending the Tao of Mirage. His ice-cold soul was thinking extremely fast at this moment, and rays of spiritual light suddenly appeared. Reaching a bottleneck in cultivation was originally very boring, because when one was stuck in a bottleneck, one would feel helpless, and their mind would go blank. They would not know how to break through it. That was why cultivators would choose to go out and explore, go out to fight, cultivate other ultimate arts, and so on. They wanted to brew new ideas after a long period of accumulation. Spiritual light was very precious. Dongbush Shuaying's Tao of Mirage was only used as an incarnation technique, and he had never really put it to use. When he encountered the Dark World Absolute Art, he was instantly enlightened, which was why he immediately went into closed-door cultivation. He even extravagantly chose the most precious secret room in the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, the Chia Incense Wood Meditation Room. In the 70,000 years of closed-door cultivation, he had indeed gained a lot. His comprehension of the first style of the Dark World, the Dark Bubble, had reached an extremely high level, and even his Tao of Mirage had reached the bottleneck of the origin birth realm. But after more than 70,000 years, the spiritual light gradually became sparse, and when it reached a bottleneck, it even dried up. The next step was to either rely on time or follow the usual routine. For example, if one cultivated in the Palace of Time for 1 or 2 billion years, one might be able to break through the bottleneck and step into the Unity realm. This was already considered an extremely high level of comprehension. Otherwise, he would go out to fight and look for opportunities. Apart from that, there was another very extravagant method. Use a cultivation aid item. Dongbua Shuang had never used a fruit like the supplementary spirit fruit before. This was his first time using it. Firstly, it was for his own cultivation. Secondly, he wanted to feel the effect before giving it to his wife and son. The effect was indeed excellent. The Mirage's law system needs to be unified. Everything must return to one. Dongbua Shuiying's mind was filled with inspiration, and he immediately started to comprehend them one by one. At this moment, his efficiency was extremely fast. Unity Realm. In the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void, they could be considered as true experts. According to the difficulty of the system, their strength after breaking through would vary. Like the bloodline cultivation system, the ancestor mother religion system, and the devour class system, the Unity realm was comparatively weaker. For example, the laws of profound mysteries system of the witchcraft system was much stronger. A Unity realm expert of the laws and profound mysteries system could easily get through the 3rd level of Star Pagoda if he cultivated for a long period. The stronger ones could even get through the 4th level of Star Pagoda, and the more talented ones could get through the 5th level. Dongbua Shuang was one of the most talented geniuses. He had broken through the 3rd level of Star Pagoda at the origin birth realm. Shuang, who was seated cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils were pitch black and filled with life. His entire being was emitting a unique aura. That was the aura of perfection. His entire being was like a deity weapon that had been refined countless times. His aura was extremely condensed, and the illusory world that appeared around him abruptly shrunk and condensed into a tiny point. This was very small. But it was very condensed and pure. It was much stronger and more stable than the illusory world from before. Unity Realm. Dongbua Shuang muttered softly. Within the inner world. Hong Long Long, the huge planet that was originally as big as the sun star, had been revolving according to the Mirage law system in the past. But now, the Mirage law system had completely fused into a single dot. This was the brand new level of the Tao of Mirage, the Mirage origin. Everything was fused into one, forming the ultimate origin of the Mirage. The huge planet was rumbling. As it revolved, it was constantly collapsing and shrinking. Its size was becoming smaller and smaller. It was originally as big as the sun star, but it soon shrunk by 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000,000 times. It was smaller than an ordinary planet, smaller than 100 meters in diameter, and smaller than a human's fist. During the process of collapsing, its density was rapidly increasing. It was an unfathomable increase. Unity realm experts like those who cultivated the strongest warrior system would increase the density of their bodies continuously. The higher the level, the stronger their bodies would be. Some bodies could even fight against void god weapons. Hence, in the strongest warrior system, Unity realm experts were relatively strong. It wasn't hard for them to get through the 3rd level of the Star Pagoda, and some heaven-defying experts could even get through the 5th level. In history, there was one expert who got through the 7th level of the strongest warrior system. At that time, his body was ridiculously strong, comparable to an upper-graded void god weapon. The planet that was originally as big as the sun star had finally shrunk to the limit, turning into a black dot. It was so small that it was hard to measure. Or perhaps, it did not have any physical meaning. It was just a dot in terms of pure energy. Its surroundings were collapsing and distorting. The laws of the mirage origin had become the core of its existence. If not for the laws of the mirage origin, its terrifying energy would have exploded, and Dongbu Shuiying's body would be blasted into pieces. Mirage origin. It is also the origin of everything. And the future cosmos origin. Dongbu Shuiying understood this point. This point was the true ultimate origin of the laws and profound mysteries system. Only from this point could it develop into a true miniature primal chaos cosmos. That was the true embryonic form of a cosmos. With such a cosmos in the body, primal chaos realm giants of the laws and profound mysteries system would be powerful too. Naturally, as long as one could reach the primal chaos realm, the other systems would also have their own heaven-defying strengths. And if one were to create a world within the primal chaos, allowing the primal chaos to evolve into a true cosmos, that would be the final realm existence, Cosmos God. And the origin of the final evolution of the cosmos would be the origin condensed by Unity Realm experts. Ying. Within his sea of consciousness, his true deity heart immediately used the newly comprehended laws of the mirage source to construct his soul. His soul body instantly became more reserved, and his soul became much more condensed, undergoing a qualitative change. His comprehension and deduction speed increased once again. The higher the realm, the faster his deduction and thinking speed would be. That was why cosmos gods could create cosmos and even comprehend a terrifying absolute art that could destroy a sacred world. That was a strength that others could only look up to. Opening his eyes, Dongbu Shuiying revealed a joyous look. He had broken through to the Unity Realm using the Tao of Mirage. It was beyond his expectations that he could reach the Unity Realm so quickly. This was the first time he broke through a major level in the laws and profound mysteries system faster than the Voidwalker system. It has been 2,300 years since I ate the supplementary spiritual fruit, and I've broken through to the Unity Realm. Dongbu Shuiying felt a chill existing in his soul. The unique energy contained within the supplementary spiritual fruit has yet to be exhausted. I should continue cultivating. He did not dare to waste any of it. The supplementary spiritual fruit would usually last for a period of time after being eaten. During this period, he had to focus on cultivating. Dark World. Dongbu Shuiying continued cultivating this absolute art. He had just grasped hold of the mirage origin. Previously, he had grasped quite a bit of the first style of Dark World, Dark Bubble. The reason why he was stuck at that level was because his realm was insufficient. Now that he had a huge breakthrough in the Tao of Mirage, reaching the level of the Mirage origin, his realm was sufficient. At that moment, it became much easier for him to comprehend the first style of Dark World, Dark Bubble. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.